Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to another WDD Live. Today's WDD Live, while I do this intro, I'm trying to get my local bricks blueprint thing spun up and fixed because one of my other ones went south on me. So I'm gonna get this going here. All right, say hi in the chat when you arrive. I know some people are probably going to ask some questions that we may have to look at on an install, so we need to have this. We need to have this thing ready to rock and roll. Okay, this should be fine then. All right. Hello, Jaroslav and John and Jason and Suzanne is here. Daniel's here. Dawson's here. Maddie, Patrick, Lee is here. D123. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ruben, welcome. Today is going to be a full Q&A/AMA. AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. A lot of people say, I don't know what an AMA is. So just for those of you who don't know, that is Ask Me Anything. So literally like, development stuff, brick stuff, frames, ACSS, business, pricing, sales, SEO, content marketing, copywriting, whatever. It's free game. And here's the thing, a lot of people in the comments on my YouTube videos, they will put a very detailed question in. And it's like, I can't really answer that in a YouTube comment, So WDD Live, especially when we do these Q&A segments, perfect time to ask those kinds of questions. So if it's something that is, requires a little explanation, requires an example or something like that, now is the time for that kind of stuff. I always feel bad because I'm like, that's a great question, but I can't answer it right here in the YouTube comments. I can't do it. Dawson says, okay. Oh, you're talking to others, not to me. Okay. Why no notifications, Kevin Geary? I don't know what you mean. Why no notifications? I don't know. You tell me. I sent an email out about an hour ago letting people know that this was going to be going down. But if YouTube didn't send a notification, that's on YouTube. I don't know. Okay, so we will start taking questions ASAP. I don't really have any announcements today. Yeah, we're working on ACSS 2.7. We're about to release a hot fix for 2.6 just to clean up a couple little things. And, we do have a lot of stuff in the pipeline, but nothing that we can unveil yet. So go ahead and write question in all caps and then your question. And I will be able to easily find it in the chat stream. All right, let's start scrolling down and seeing if anybody's got any questions. Ruben says, can we get an AI version of frames? I don't know. I've seen, I saw Reloom and their AI thing. By the time you tell AI, what kind of page you want, and then it gets frames and it puts them in, and then you have to swap some out because AI is not perfect, then I don't know. Couldn't you have just gone in and just chosen the frames that you wanted? I have a lot of ideas for frames, but I just don't know if going down that rabbit hole is the best use of time for right now. The AI rabbit hole. I feel like that's just going to be a big time suck of figuring out the best way to make that happen. And is it going to be useful for people? Or is it just another, I just feel like everybody's like, well, we got to have AI. And so they just find a way to, shove AI into the tool that they've already built. And I don't know. Sometimes it's a little useful. Sometimes it's not so useful. We'll see. Pedro says, ready to listen to my friends, Kevin Geary, as my wife calls it. Okay, question. How much would you mark up a white label service? It depends on what the service is. I don't do a lot of white label stuff. So I'm not really sure what the standards for pricing is in the white label world. It's always tough, if you're faced with doing white label work, I mean, you always feel like you're working at a discount because like the agency that's hiring you wants a deal because they still got to mark up the service, right? So they can make a profit. I don't know. Just feels like, too many middlemen. Luke Holmes says, will you be using Fortress for security on any of your sites? And will you be changing your grid pane servers to peak frequency? I haven't looked into any of that yet. I try to stay out of like back end. You can only be an expert in so many things, right? So I try to stay out of back end, like hosting, security, all of that stuff. And I let other people handle that stuff on our team. But I have seen that they have added a few new things to grid pane. But again, I have to look into it, see what it's all about, and then get advice from others and then implement that. Question: in the frames process section, delta, and even the timeline section, alpha, all are linear. Do you have a recommended approach for a circular process timeline structure? I don't even, trying to think like what, I don't know that I've ever seen a circular timeline structure. I would need do you have an example? Do you have like a link I can go to or there's a live version of this? Every timeline I've ever seen, it's either, they're all linear. I mean, that's what a timeline is, right? In a timeline linear, it's a timeline. Hey, David, timeline. But it either is all in a list or it like, alternates. But I've never seen a circular timeline. I need a visual example. If I can have a visual, then I can give a clear answer here. Selling premium service is still the hardest. I don't know if that's a question or just a statement. Charlie says, as a PB101 student, is there any relationship between pseudo elements and pseudo classes, or are they entirely two different things? They're two different things, but they can absolutely work together for sure. I think you'll get a clearer picture when I do the pseudo classes training, which is coming next. So then you'll have a good understanding of pseudo elements. You'll have a good understanding of pseudo classes, and then you can see perhaps them working together. They don't always have to work together, though. They can. It's like a possibility, but they are definitely separate things. Okay, Kevin Geary, I hope we'll talk about the Lewis interview. Hey, if we get bored, I will pull that little thread up and, well, we can go through it. We can talk about some things. I mean, because, man, I've been saying, I actually just saw a discussion. It was at a glance. It was at a glance. It was something about, it was with Kraka and Lewis, and, Kraka uses breakdance a lot. And they were talking about some sort of animation on scroll and achieving some effect. And there was a discussion going back and forth about, well, we could just use custom properties. And, we were, I thought we were told that breakdance was the tool for beginners, right? But then every time I see the discussions around it, where an advanced user comes in and they're asking questions, no longer is it like oh, you're an advanced user, like go use Oxygen. Isn't that supposed to be the answer? The discussion is always around, oh yeah, we'll put that super advanced thing into breakdance. Because they were talking about like custom property. I'm like, what beginner knows anything about custom properties? And animating things on scroll using custom property. This is not, so once again, like Oxygen is not going to have these features, but breakdance is going to have them. But the tool for beginners is going to have these advanced features that Oxygen doesn't use. But then remember, the whole narrative is Oxygen is their tool for professionals and experts and yada, yada, yada. And it's still, it's still lively and going forward just as much as breakdance. And come on, like, talking out both sides of the mouth. I constantly see examples of this. So just go back to my original statements about what is going to happen to Oxygen. And there's no evidence that that's wrong. We're still barreling down that path. So yeah, we might pull up that interview and go through a few things. Don't get me started so early on that. We can do many positive things before we get there. Okay. Jan Landing says, hey, it's Wednesday. I have this on my calendar as a recurring event. That's correct. Yes, you should not need a notification from YouTube or even an email from me, right? If you're a WDD Live OG, you have this in your calendar notifies you, and you're good to go. Is it possible to make a tutorial on how to start converting Figma design to bricks in the best efficient way? Yeah, I've already done that. Well, I'm going to be doing more and more and more, but like on the automatic CSS channel. By the way, if you're an ACSS user or a Frames user, or you're at all remotely interested in ACSS or Frames, make sure you're subscribed to the ACSS channel. But I did publish and actually got a lot of comments, a lot of likes, like people were really excited about it and they want more of them. But I did a full landing page build, and it was actually, it was to prove a point, honestly. It was in Figma, but it was not designed with frames. It was not like the wireframe wasn't done with frames. The design wasn't done with frames. I just got it from frontendmentor.com. And it, they give you a Figma file of a website design. It was just a simple landing page kind of thing. But I wanted to show that even if the initial design and wireframe wasn't done with frames, you can still use frames to speed up the workflow of building the page. And then ACSS, of course, you're using. And it was a full walkthrough of like, here's this thing in Figma that we have to build. Let's go ahead and build it. And let's use frames and let's use ACSS to build it. And then the next one I'm going to do is the Uber.com homepage. That one's going to be coming probably next week. So we'll be doing the Uber.com homepage, which is really interesting because it's got a triple carousel thing going on in the hero section. So we actually have to use 3 linked sliders together, and we can actually use the frames slider component to do that. So I'm going to be using the frame slider in the hero section, but we're going to use ACSS and frames to make the Uber.com homepage. And then I've got a few more. I'm just going to be taking these like real sites and building them with frames and ACSS. But that's all going down on the ACSS channel, not on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed over there to see those take place. But that should give you everything you need for, hey, I have a thing in Figma. How do I build it in bricks? All those sites are going to be perfect examples of doing that. Because even if it's not, like, the Uber.com homepage obviously is not in Figma, but it's the same as if you had a Figma design. You're building from an existing design. Okay, how is the progress for more menus in frames? That's a really good question. So we built some mega menus using the new bricks nestable nav thing. And I was like, all right, it's decent, but I went in and I didn't build it. Tobias built it, and I went in to start playing with it because as a user, like I want to make sure it's good, and nothing that he did wrong. What I kept running into was the bricks nestable nav element just sucks. I can't get around this. I put a post in the community about this. It's just not good. It's not could have been much better. I'm trying to be as positive as possible. It could have been much better. It's just, there's stuff scattered everywhere. It's like panel after panel after panel. And and so I was like, you know what? We should probably hold off on mega menus, because what we're doing in frames is we're building our own menu component. You can do mega menus with it. You can do everything with it. And it's going to have a much better default mobile menu experience for sure. We're going to put put our brain power into it and see what we can come up with. And I just think we're going to hold off on the mega menu frames until that component exists. Because I don't want the user experience to be bad or like super frustrating like that. Like if it was frustrating for me, it's going to be like, really frustrating for most people. So I just didn't publish it. I was like, no, I don't think we're going to go forward with this. So if you're waiting on mega menu frames, you're probably going to have to wait for our menu component, and then we'll start doing mega menu frames. And then at that point, it'll just be like drag and drop all these cool little mega menus. And I will be doing some modal menu though. So the new automatic CSS website uses a full screen modal menu, which I was very happy with when I got done with it. I think that having frames like that, so where you can add a modal and this could be for desktop or mobile, But you can just add a modal into your header with our trigger element and then drop a modal menu frame in. We'll have like probably dozens of them. And that'll give you a really good menu experience. If you want to use it just for mobile, you can. If you want to use it for desktop and mobile, you can. But that'll kind of give you out of the box, really good modern menu experience. Now, I will say this, not every website should have a modal menu for desktop. Okay, if you have a techie audience, obviously I have a techie audience. So like automatic CSS, people arriving there, they can handle a desktop modal menu. Okay, but not a lot of people can. If you're appealing to like an older crowd or non-techie crowd, you're gonna want a standard navigation on your desktop. But still, I would use modal on mobile. I do that all the time just because the mobile menu options are an absolute disaster. And it's easier to just build one with a modal. All right, hopefully that answers that. Question, repeat from Inner Circle. In one of your videos, you briefly mentioned using archive pages to display services instead of creating a service page. What are the reasons for that? It really comes down to like preference, honestly. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think that CPT, well, here's the thing. It depends on how you create the CPT. Some software, when you create the CPT, I think Metabox maybe is an example of this. You have to like turn off the archive page for it. You have to say, don't create an archive page. The new ACF, I believe that the archive page is off by default. What happens a lot of times is people create a services CPT, for an example, right? And they don't realize that an archive page was created for it. And then they go create a services page, like to overview all of their services. And they put a loop on it and they query their services, not realizing that there's still a service archive page floating out there that has no design, no template assigned to it, no nothing, basically a blank page. And this ends up getting indexed and it's a bad situation, right? So what you just want to make sure that you're using one or the other. So if you're going to make a normal page for your services and then use a query loop on it to query your CPT posts, that's fine. Just make sure the archive for that CPT is turned off. If you're going to use the archive page, then use the archive page and just make sure you don't make a normal service page. You can do it either way. The argument would be, you go to your pages to edit your service page, but your posts for those services are not going to be in that section. But then the counter argument is in most, like in Oxygen, for example, this would be even worse, right? Because if you use a template on a category page for that, then you always have to go to your templates to edit your service page. And that's really annoying. Not so much in Bricks because you can seamlessly switch between them. But yeah, it still kind of doesn't keep things all in one area, unfortunately. Because once again, the builders, they have to have all these special areas to do things instead of one page building area. So yeah, no right or wrong. Just it comes down to preference. The only wrong version is if you have a page and then an archive page trying to do the same thing, and then you even forget to assign a template to the archive version. Okay, one of your videos. Okay, we did that one. Maddie Eastwood says, Kracket interviewed Lewis the other day. He said the class-based workflow made sense in 2015, but with breakdance, you don't need it. Isn't it enough to just point to the W3C in response? The thing with this is very interesting that someone would make this argument that a class-based workflow makes sense in 2015, but with breakdance, you don't need it. I've seen that argument made time after time. Nobody has provided a shred of evidence or examples of why this is the case, including Lewis. Lewis has not. He will make that statement over and over and over again, but actually outright refuses to prove it. Prove it. Lewis, show us. Show us. Make a card, use it 20 times on one page, 20 times on another page, 20 times on a third page, and then show us how you would go about changing styles related to that card. Right? He says, well, you can copy and paste. Well, we've already talked about this. You don't want to live a copy-paste life. That's still Chumpville. And you can't copy-paste styles across multiple pages. Now, The only valid argument would be if they release some sort of true component functionality for breakdance. So, but you know, bricks could do this as well. Now, I would still argue you would still make classes. Like a true component-based functionality is not going to kill classes. Still, global classes using BIM is a really, really, really great idea, whether you're using true components or not using true components. So right now, as it stands, you know, it's easy. It's another one of these. Have you ever heard a content creator say SEO is dead? Have you ever heard a content creator say WordPress is dead? I mean, WordPress has died like, you know, a dozen times, guys. SEO has died thousands of times. I mean, that poor thing. I mean, it is like, man, you know how many funerals we've had for SEO? You know, PPC has died a few times, I'm pretty sure. All these content creators, they love to declare things dead, right? Because it gets them free, stupid clicks. You know, it's clickbait nonsense. Now, in Lewis's case, like he doesn't want classes to be relevant because he decided that he wasn't going to put those front and center in breakdance. And if he had to put them front and center in breakdance, it would be called Oxygen 4.0. So he has to ride that narrative that classes are irrelevant. Unfortunately, he hasn't demonstrated that that is the actual case. He hasn't shown us that that's the case. And I will say this, 3 separate times, if we want to see, Lewis is avoiding me. Probably because I ask hard questions that are hard to answer. And still maintain some semblance of alignment with the breakdance narrative. One of the questions that I've been asking recently, again, I've asked this 3 separate times in a discussion he was already active in, so I know he was there, tagged his name, so I know he saw it, okay? It's about the pre-made elements thing, because his narrative is we have over 120 pre-made elements. This is what he thinks is the big, you know, marketing thing for a page builder. He recognized that Elementor's got a lot of pre-made elements and Divi's got a lot of pre-made elements. And so with breakdance, it's like his main marketing narrative is it's got 120 plus, we have the best pre-made elements, yada, yada, yada. Well, as I have shown, okay, I've actually shown this, not just talking, I've actually shown that pre-made elements, all of them, have a fatal flaw. The fatal flaw is that you use them and you can't add other elements to them. That's a fatal flaw because we all know that things change. People change their mind. We build something and then realize, oh, it needs one extra feature. It needs one extra thing. We forgot about it, whatever. And if you've already used that thing everywhere, it becomes a real problem. Real problem. And, you know, this doesn't exist if you build a thing because, you know, the other thing that Lewis will say is divs. Who builds with divs? Who builds with divs anymore? That's the other thing that's dead. The div is dead, okay, apparently. And, you know, I've demonstrated clearly, well, if you take 60 seconds to build a card with divs, you can add anything to it that you want at any point in time in the future. There is no limitation. But if you use a pre-made card component, you can't add anything to it. So you saved 60 seconds by dragging in a pre-built card component, but you basically have the fatal flaw of you can never do anything new with it later going forwards. There is no iteration on that card in the future. Now, and I even put this in the comment. So what I said to Lewis basically was, are you going to acknowledge that this fatal flaw exists? Like you're marketing all of these pre-made elements to everybody and you're insisting that people use them because they're so fantastic. But are you going to ever tell them that there's this fatal flaw or are you going to let them find out on their own? Right? Because I already know it exists and I've already been telling people that it exists. What are you at some point going to acknowledge this? Now, breakdance has a separate area. It has a magic area where you can edit components. I forget what it's called off the top of my head because I don't use breakdance, but you can basically, you know, hack into the elements, right? And you can add your own elements to it. You could potentially add more elements to it. The problem is this is not beginner friendly. This is not, if you watch Lewis do it, it's not beginner friendly. Clearly not beginner. So then we're not, because he may counter. This may be his counter. Well, oh, it's called Element Studio. you can take the element into Element Studio and do whatever you want with it there. Okay, so, but then this goes back to, it violates the number one other marketing thing about breakdance is it's for beginners, right? So you're encouraging beginners to use these pre-built elements which have a fatal flaw, and then to fix that fatal flaw, they have to not be a beginner. Is basically the reality of the situation. So that's where we stand. So I've asked this 3 times to acknowledge the fatal flaw with pre-built elements, and I just get ignored constantly. You know, he'll answer every other question, all the easy questions, and he'll, you know, say things like classes are dead, but never show why classes are dead, never prove that classes are dead, never show a scalability or maintainability feature of breakdance. No demonstration, just talk, right? It's very easy to do this, very hard to demonstrate, you know, something like that, something like classes is dead. I mean, if you're gonna make a statement like classes are dead, divs are dead, I mean, like these are the most fundamental aspects of web design, and you're not going to demonstrate. You're not going to give us some evidence. That's a little sketch. Okay. Do you have a process to peacefully stop clients delaying projects by not giving you content? Yes. Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, this is a broader question, but let's screen share for this one. I would highly recommend, okay, if you are having trouble with getting clients to deliver things on time, and it's affecting your price, really, let me do this. Let me go to geary.co, okay? Go to the blog section. So you're going to go to blog right here. You're going to come down, and you're going to click on this one. There's, I think, 2 articles you need to read. Yes. So milestone payments don't make sense for web design projects. This is very detailed. Goes into numbers. It goes into a lot of different areas. Absolutely 100% read this article. If you're doing milestone payments right now, like, you know, 50% upfront, 50% on completion, 50% upfront, 25% halfway mark, 25% when we're done, that kind of stuff, absolutely stop what you're doing after this live. Don't do anything else after this live ends, and go read this article right here called Milestone Payments Don't Make Sense for Web Design Projects. Then, after you're done reading that, you're going to read the next one, which is how to handle delayed, suspended, or abandoned web design projects right here. Again, very, 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 very deep. Look, it even gives you contract language. It gives you how to warn your client in writing, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, it's like you can copy paste this stuff, okay? But it's all about philosophy and understanding how the project should go and what should and should not affect you as the agency. And so if you understand that milestone payments don't make sense, what you'll realize is you structure the pricing of a project correctly. And if we are relying on the client to give content, which that's the third thing that I wanted to talk about, you really shouldn't, okay? You should be doing the copywriting for the client. You guys should be providing the copy, or a third party should be providing the copy. We've already talked about all the reasons of why this is. But if for some reason you are relying on the client for something, there is some proprietary content sometimes you have to rely on the client for. For example, maybe you know, they needed to take photos of the inside of their building or whatever. Like I don't know what it may be, but there could be some content that you can't create. You physically can't create it. They have to provide it, and they're late providing it. It still doesn't affect your payment. You have to make sure that still doesn't affect your payment. And you'll understand why I go into all the psychological reasons that clients use to delay. They may be sabotaging. When you do milestone payments, you give them the ability to delay projects and to psychologically sabotage projects, which they could do for various reasons. It's just read these in detail. You'll understand. Okay. But yes, you can make sure that content that is delayed does not affect your payments. That's the number one thing. If you get fully paid and the project is, they're still, you know, twiddling their thumbs. I mean, why do I care anymore? Right? I already got paid. So that's the number one thing. You have to make sure you still get paid regardless of what you're waiting on from the client. They can delay content. They can't delay payments. All right, let's keep going. These are good questions. Super chat, $2 from Steve Taylor. Did you know your video is glitching? Is this video glitching? Nobody else is saying it's glitching. Anybody else? How's our video going? See, now I've got to, I got to scroll down to the bottom now. I lost my place. I got to see new comments. I need new comments real quick. Is the video going good? Are we all right? I'm assuming we're all right because nobody else has reported any glitching. So I'm gonna assume we're okay. I'm gonna go back up. All right, let's see. Wow, there's a lot. Okay. Okay, we did the one about that interview. Or am I misunderstanding what the W3C does? I think there's an international organization setting standards for the web should be all the counter argument needed against malpracticing page builders. Look, I am not against like innovation. Obviously I love innovation. I've innovated a lot of stuff. With automatic CSS, we brought a lot of innovations to the table in how frameworks are built and how frameworks operate for users and so on and so forth. I am open to the idea that some sort of technique or new development could kill classes. Let's talk about like media queries as an example. I think container queries have the potential to completely eliminate media queries, perhaps. I haven't thought of every single use case or every single situation or context, but very possible the container queries just basically make media queries obsolete. So something could come along that makes classes obsolete. A true dynamic components, do alleviate the need for a lot of the class-based stuff that we do. Now, not everything is going to be a component is the one problem, right? And even still, I think that there's still some situations where, no, you're still going to want global classes on those true components. So I still don't think it eliminates it, but I'm not ever ruling out the possibility that some development technique comes along where we don't need global classes anymore or something like that. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows because it hasn't been invented yet. Breakdance certainly isn't it. Breakdance certainly isn't the one that's going to kill classes. Haven't seen any evidence of that. But I have an open mind to it. And so it's not like I'm coming from a position where it's like, no, clutching my pearls. Like, don't ever take my classes away. I don't care if I don't care what we use. What I care about is scalability and maintainability and efficiency. So if we can build scalable, maintainable websites efficiently, I don't care what method we do that by. What I notice is most people are not building scalable, maintainable websites. They're building websites that are terribly difficult to maintain and terribly difficult to scale and iterate on. And thus, we teach best practices around BEM classes. And okay, here's how you can take an approach where these disasters don't continue to happen. So, that's the position. It's not, I love classes and, I dream about them at night and I don't ever want them to go away. That's not the situation we're in. It's classes are promoted right now because they are hands down the best way to create scalable, maintainable websites efficiently. That's it. It's the end of the story. So web standards, going back to web standards, I don't think that there should be like one body of web standard governance or anything like that. The web is like the wild, wild west. And so we have to do our best to establish techniques and standards for things and share best practices. But we don't need a governing body or anything to like say what is right and what is wrong. It's up to everybody, every individual to listen to the arguments and then decide for themselves, yes, that argument makes logical, reasonable sense. I've seen enough evidence for it. This is the path that I'm going to go down. And then if someone over here is flapping lips but doesn't ever seem to provide any evidence or reason or logic or anything else, they just like to talk, then don't go down that path. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I haven't seen any evidence to convince me. So therefore, I'm not going down that path. And we just, this is it. Debate, examples, proof, evidence, whatever. That's going to rule the day. What do you think about the BRICS roadmap for global components? I don't know. I mean, I saw it listed and it was interesting because like 48 hours earlier, I emailed Thomas about global components and asked him, and his response was basically like, well, It's not going to come anytime soon. We haven't thought that much about it. I'm going to look into it. And then I guess he looked into it, after that, because 48 hours later, it was on the roadmap. So I don't know. I don't know if they had a change of heart. I don't know if they got excited about it when they saw. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But it went from we haven't really looked into it. It's not going to be anytime soon to it's on the roadmap in 48 hours. So I'm not sure what happened there. I wish we had a little bit more insight. I said this in my mastermind the other day, shout out to Lewis from Quickly. And this is, I always got to say Lewis from Quickly, right? Because we have the Lewis from SoFly, and then Lewis from Quickly. And I don't ever want people to think when I'm just mentioning Lewis, I'm probably talking about the SoFly Lewis, not saying anything bad about the Lewis from Quickly. So I was talking about it in my mastermind the other day. I was like, you know what? I don't even use Quickly. I am going to be playing with it a lot more, obviously, because I have to integrate automatic CSS with it. But I was giving a kudos to Lewis from Quickly because I was like, I don't use Quickly. I've known about Bricks for a lot longer than I've known about Quickly, but I seem to know far more about Lewis from Quickly's philosophy in the page building world and where Quickly is probably going than I do about Bricks. And the reason why is because we see Lewis from Quickly's face. We see his videos. He's willing to enter into the general broader public discussion about a lot of these things. I did a live stream where I had some really good things to say about Quickly components. I had some criticisms of Quickly's UX. Lewis did a whole video taking my critiques on the UX and then explaining himself related to those critiques. These are things that are not happening with most page builders, all right? We don't see this happening with, I don't know much about the, developers of Elementor or what they think, what their philosophy is going forward with. Same thing with Divi. I know a little bit more, because the creator of Divi does actually get on video and talk to people. Not I haven't seen him do any live streams, I don't think, but, at least pre-recorded videos kind of talking about the future of Divi and the direction that they're headed and yada, yada, yada. But really, it's nothing from Bricks. I really wish there was. I want to know what Thomas's philosophy is around a lot of these things. I want to know what the vision for Bricks is. So if I had a criticism of Bricks, it's a lack of transparency in that regard, a lack of vision casting for where it's going. And I try to remember to do this for automatic CSS and frames. I try to talk about the vision as much as possible. I sit here hour after hour after hour talking about philosophy. That's one of the benefits of buying into a tool like automatic CSS and frames. Not only that I actually use it in my own work, which a lot of these page builders, the developers don't use them. They're not building websites, right? So most of them. And so they're not really using their own tool other than they probably built the website for the builder with it. But it's not a day in, day out living in the builder building pages kind of thing, right? I use automatic CSS and frames day after day after day after day after day. And then I sit here hour after hour and I talk about philosophy and vision and the future and all this other stuff. And everybody knows what I care about. Everybody knows what I focus on. Everybody knows where I want things to go. And that is very, very valuable, I feel, right? When I'm a user of a product like Bricks and I don't know what the vision is and I don't know what the philosophy is of related to certain things, you feel a little bit in the dark and you feel oh, well, I hope that, now it's a faith situation. People ask me all the time, is Bricks the #1 page builder for WordPress? And I say, yes, right now. Is it going to stay that way? I have no idea. If I knew more about the vision and I knew more about the philosophy and there were more transparency and discussions around certain things, I would be much more confident in saying it's going to stay #1, guys. It's going to stay #1 because I know I've heard from the person driving it and what their ideas are, what their philosophy is, yada, 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 yada. Those things are very important. But because I don't know those things, the only thing I can say is it's #1 right now. I don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. And, that's why I also said, quickly is something to not, take your eye off of, because I do know more about the philosophy and the vision of quickly, honestly, than I do about bricks. And so, I think that that's a very important thing, and it's missing from bricks. All right. All right, some people talking about white labeling stuff. Question, tutorial please, frames logo section alpha, CTA named resources with 3 taxonomies A, B, C, how to query in bricks only taxonomy A. Whoa. Oh, gosh. Y'all hurting my brain. Frames logo section alpha. Well, on the top of my head, if I remember, that's just a line of logos that stack for like social proof. Logo section alpha. And then you have CTA named resources with 3 tags. I'm a little lost. I'll put that question up so everybody can see it. Right? I don't know. I don't know what you're asking, honestly. So maybe try to rephrase. Talk to me like I'm 5. And then hopefully I can grasp it and answer for you. Question, what do you think about recent bricks release bugs and they're adding global components to roadmap? Okay, so we just talked about the global components thing. The bug thing was a little sketch. It was a little sketch. I feel like that bug could have been caught and really should have been. I mean, I caught it in seconds. Like, bam. I don't know. I feel like that should have been caught. For sure. And this is it is hard, guys. It is very, very difficult when software can be used in so many different ways and affects so many different things. It's very difficult to make sure that there's no such thing as bug-free software, right? But there are certain bugs where it's like, that's a critical error, not like a minor error. We have a lot of internal discussions in ACSS about how to prevent bugs in the first place, but definitely how to prevent critical errors and the testing that things go through, and on and on and on. And we're currently have plans to build out automated testing environments where we can install the thing and it just runs scripts and it tests a bunch of things automatically. But there's still, there's things that people do with ACSS that I didn't even think of doing, and they might run into a bug here or there related to that. And it's like, I mean, nobody could have brainstormed that was going to be the case, right? So there's no such thing as bug-free software, but we do have a responsibility to do our absolute best to make sure there are no critical errors. That was kind of a critical error. But they did, kudos to them. They did what they were supposed to do. They immediately released a fix. It was like 2 or 3 hours later, there was a hot fix. So that side of it was good. I want to niche down my web consulting services, but I have no experience in the niche. Just a huge interest and passion. How would you recommend I start? Free work. Do you have an example of the niche? I'm trying to think. So it'd be like dog training. Like if I was like, I want to build, I don't know why you would. I think dog trainers are all broke. But if you're like, I want to build websites in the dog training niche, I'm just thinking like, random stuff here. But I don't know anything about dog training. It's a little tough. I mean, here's the thing about business, like marketing. And this is why I can get on consulting calls, and it's a business that I don't have a lot of experience with, but they tell me what their challenges are, and there are different frameworks and constructs for like, all right, well, I see you guys not doing these very important things. You are doing these things over here, which seem like a waste of time. And then we end up talking through it, and you throw out ideas, and then you just know, like, there's these frameworks of like, okay, why are you doing this but not doing this? Why is your pricing this way and not that way? And here's some creative things you can do that are a little out of the box that your competitors probably aren't doing, and yada, 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 right? You can still provide all of that great value to a niche, even if you haven't done work in that niche, 100%. Really, it comes down to content and copy, right? Because then you're in a situation where it's like, you can't really write the copy if you're not well-versed in that industry. But you can always find a copywriter who is well-versed in that industry and bring them on. which is even easier if you are going to niche down and be doing a lot of work in that niche over and over and over again. That makes perfect sense. Now you bring in a copywriter who's well-versed in that industry, and they can help you with many, many, many different projects now. And then you're going to start learning about that industry as you do the work. And then it's not going to take very long for you to kind of be an expert in how you can help XYZ business and XYZ industry get XYZ results. So it's just a process. No, I don't think you need to do free work or anything like that. You just need to know what you're doing when it comes to like general business and marketing and obviously web design. Do you have any recommendations for quality Figma UI design marketplaces? I want to build some use cases, but I don't have a budget. If you guys in the chat, go ahead, and I'm going to screen share in just a second here. We're going to maybe bring up some of that frame stuff that somebody was talking about just a second ago. But if anybody has UI-related resources for Figma, please, you can't drop links in the chat. They'll disappear. But definitely give, some pointers on where he can go to get that. All right. I saw that interview. Okay. Will you be making frames for WooCommerce, my account, along the... Yeah. We've already been making WooCommerce frames, and there are more coming for sure. I'm already offended. Leave breakdance alone. I need to build a page in breakdance, and I need to see... Ruben, you got to tell me... How about this, Ruben? Tell me why breakdance over bricks for you. Because I think, Ruben, you've used bricks, right? You've used it? Why breakdance over bricks? Let's talk about that. I'll let you respond down below. I'll come back. I'll come back to that. Rob says circular timeline to show a process, maybe like a revision cycle. Is that a timeline though? I still need an example. Okay. Save the rants for later, guys. Come on, don't peek too early. Can someone fill me in about this interview? Was it recent? It was not a video interview. We're not talking about the one that Kraka did. We're talking about a discussion that happened in WordPress. What is it? WordPress, some WordPress group. Somebody basically, maybe I can, should I try to find it? Should I pull it up just so we have it? Let me find it on my other screen real quick. All right, so this was in WordPress. Dynamic WordPress is the name of the group, Dynamic WordPress. And it was David McCann. And he basically, I don't know what prompted it. Maybe he reached out to Lewis, I don't know. But he basically gave his thoughts on the whole breakdance thing and what breakdance can do to be more successful in the market. Here's the thread, I think. It was challenging Lewis on some other things that had happened in the past or things that Lewis had said, why some people were disgruntled. And I mean, there's 152 comments, It was his thoughts. Okay, here was the original thread. Marketing. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this. Let's just pull this up. Okay. All right. This is it. I want to make sure. See, now we got to get rid of all these bubbles here. Let's get rid of all these bubbles. Okay. All right. This was it. So kind of it wasn't too long. It was semi-long. You said that your main point is marketing, and you said, see, I don't know, like this, it felt like the post came out of nowhere. And it has this official image, thoughts about breakdance from Dynamic WordPress. So this is David. You said that your main point is marketing, and you said that there is a cadre, is this how we pronounce this? Of unhappy Oxygen users who are, my gosh, stop it, people. How do you silence these? Is there any, see, I can't even bring up, let me do this. Oh my gosh, stop it. All right, I'm going to bring this over here for a minute. All right, let's bring this in. Here we go. Save that. Let's bring that over here. Okay. And now we can even zoom in better. All right, you said that your main point is marketing, and you said that there's a cadre of unhappy oxygen users who are poisoning the well. Here are some thoughts on this. That by the way, people aren't allowed to be upset about the thing. Apparently, it's just them. Everybody's poisoning the well. It's breakdance is always so fly. They're always the victim in this situation. Nobody was wronged. It was just everybody misunderstood, and there was really no problem. And then now anybody who is a little upset or has something not positive to say, it's poisoning the well. It's classic stuff. Marketing. Based on their pricing and cloud offering, my sense is that the majority of the Elementor customer base, okay, so they're targeting Elementor heavily, if you guys don't know. That's their whole thing, is like, we're a better Elementor. That's the whole position of breakdance. My sense is that the majority of the Elementor customer base are individuals with one or only a few sites. Does that track with your research? Is that the part of the Elementor pie you are going after? If so, you want training resources starting from scratch. In my experience, this segment needs a lot of basic WordPress help. Let's keep in mind that, doesn't Elementor come pre-packaged in a lot of template packs on ThemeForest and stuff, like the free version of Elementor? Everybody goes on and on about there's these 8 gazillion Elementor installs. And it's like, how many of those are live sites? How many of those are real sites? How many of those did the person actually choose Elementor, or was Elementor just pre-packaged in this theme that they bought? And there's that whole situation, right? It seems like breakdance pricing is more friendly to them than Elementor pricing. That's a point of comparison. There's a good amount of overlap between the needs of the two groups. You should cater to that overlap. But for targeting, creating training resources, building community, defining your market segment will be helpful. My sense is that your target is freelancers and small agencies, but also some individuals where the overlap is sufficient. Okay, this is all boring. The general message along the lines of as easy as Elementor, but as powerful as Oxygen seems like a good one. You have lots of good points of comparison to back that up. Criticisms about doing comparisons are crap. Comparison together with experience. Okay, I agree with this. You have to be able to compare in your marketing. You compare and contrast. That is an important part of marketing. Every group, every tribe has a story, yada, yada, yada. Okay. All right, let's talk about the disgruntled Oxygen users. There are maybe 3 sources of bile. 1, you told them they were special because they used Oxygen and it was the best there is. Then you switched and said how great breakdance is, and they felt like the rug was pulled out from under them. Second, there was some financial element because they thought they had taken care of the builder cost. Third, worry about change and retooling, and they felt it was forced on them. Here are some ideas on how to fix it. Okay, all right. Take steps to no rational person, give people a discount, yada, yada, yada. So is this real? Are these really the 3 reasons? You told them they were special because they used Oxygen and it was the best there is. Maybe I would reword that. Let me pull up my chat so I can see our streaming here. Okay. It's not that people were told they were special, okay, for using Oxygen. It was because Oxygen was, in fact, the best there was. Okay, so Oxygen was the best page builder for doing professional work in WordPress. So that was just the reality. Oxygen was the best tool that there was. And there were inklings that Oxygen was being rebuilt in Vue. Now, if you want me to go into conspiracy theory mode, I will gladly go into conspiracy theory mode. In fact, I posted this when this whole first thing started. I published this in the Inner Circle. I did a whole long write-up. And we're wondering, why should we rehash this? Is it really all that important? It goes into page builder philosophy. It goes into the shakeup in page builder land. Again, going into talks about it is important, guys, to understand the vision and the philosophy behind a tool based on what the developer's thinking inside of their brain. And this was a big thing, okay, that nobody knew what Lewis was thinking. If we had known what Lewis was thinking or what the vision was or what the philosophy was, I think that would have solved this entire thing. So I just mentioned a little bit ago, it's important to know the vision and philosophy of the developer. We don't know that with bricks. We don't know that with bricks. We didn't know that with Lewis, and it didn't work out so well, okay? So that goes to show you how much transparency and, being involved in the conversation is, like, how important that is. Oxygen was the best. They felt like the rug was pulled out from under them. All right, let's go into conspiracy theory mode. I knew somebody that worked at SoFly for a little while, and it was his understanding that Oxygen was being rebuilt in Vue. That was his understanding. There was a lot of rumblings in the community in general, but I heard it from somebody who actually was at one point like on the inside of SoFly. At least that's what I was told. And it seemed like it was actually happening. Okay. And then another year and a half goes by, and it's like, well, where is it though? Where is it? And then breakdance just comes out of nowhere. And I will just tell you, when I opened breakdance and started to use it for the first time, I was like, this feels like it was Oxygen 4.0. Like if they were going to rebuild Oxygen in Vue, this is what it would probably have felt like, right? And it had some of the same stuff that Oxygen does, like the section inner div element thing. Exact same behavior, right, from Oxygen, which they could have fixed, should have fixed, but still didn't, which was disappointing. Like breakdance still has the invisible wrapper inside of sections. It's hugely, hugely problematic. And so, or what version is Oxygen on? I keep saying 4.0. Oxygen builder. Okay. Gosh. All right, here we go. 4. Okay. Yeah. 5.0. Sorry. It would have been 5.0. I keep saying 4.0. It would have been 5.0. If it was being rebuilt in Vue, like that's what 5.0. I my brain has a hard time believing that was not Oxygen 5.0, that breakdance was not Oxygen 5.0. Somewhere along the line of rebuilding, they shifted gears and they went from we're rebuilding Oxygen in Vue to no, we're making something new. Now, I think Lewis will say till the day he dies that is not the case. That they built breakdance with this brand new vision, right? All from the ground up. My brain has a hard time believing that breakdance is not Oxygen 5.0. And then they just shifted gears. They went a little bit there because honestly, it's at this point right now, it's Oxygen without a class first workflow. In fact, it's, a lot of parts of it are better than Oxygen. Man, that's my conspiracy theory. I fully believe they were rebuilding Oxygen and then shifted gears and then told everybody they built breakdance from the ground up and yada. And this was the vision the whole time. But they just, their fault was they didn't tell anybody, right? They just kind of dropped it on everybody. So then you're thinking, all right, so why did people get upset? People got upset because they realized, oh, this tool that I know and love, that is the #1 tool for WordPress page builders, if that time and attention had been put into this tool, it would be far and away the best tool for WordPress. Hands down, there would be no question, zero question. And I just put this the other day in the inner circle because this came up again. Somebody else brought it up. And it has to do with all the new stuff that breakdance is getting. And the fact that breakdance is getting things that they said it was never going to get. The repeater. Oh, it'll never have a repeater. It'll never have a query loop. It'll never have a div. It'll never have this. It'll never have that. Now it has all those things. The only thing it doesn't have is a class first workflow. How long will it be till it has a class first workflow? I don't know. Month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. Don't know. Maybe it never will. But there's a lot of things that were never going to happen in breakdance that absolutely happened, not very long after we were told that it was never going to happen. And what has my main argument been? Well, I just know from a marketing and business standpoint, I mean, you have two tools that are very, 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 very similar to each other. It splits up your marketing. It splits up your resources. It's just based on what I know about business. If one of them over here is just not getting a lot of love from the market anymore, it is going to cost more to keep it around than it is to just get rid of it. That's why I've always said the number one thing threatening Oxygen is Breakdance. It's not Bricks. It's not any other builder. It's not Quickly. It is their own other tool. Their own other tool is the thing that is going to kill this first tool, especially if it continues to cannibalize it. It just doesn't make any sense to keep the other tool around. It doesn't make any business sense whatsoever to keep the other tool around. And that's why I brought up on the very beginning of the stream, I see Kraka and Lewis talking about scroll animations, and Lewis's solution is, oh, we'll just build in custom properties so that people can do anything with the scroll animation. I'm like, that's not a beginner thing. None of y'all's discussion right here is beginner. This should be technically, based on what we're told, happening in the Oxygen community. Move that discussion over there. I thought this was we're easy, right? We're for beginners. We're point and click. We're this and that. If we're going to build an advanced tool, I mean, they're talking about building functionality that Oxygen hasn't even sniffed. Oxygen hasn't even thought about that kind of functionality, and it's in Breakdance, right? It's in the beginner tool, but it's not in the Oxygen tool. And so everybody starts to realize, man, if they put this time and attention into Oxygen, it would hands down, no competition, be the best page builder for WordPress. But what do we have instead? We have a tool that's limping along, Oxygen, limping. It's absolutely limping along, okay? Nobody can counter that. It is limping along. And then we have Breakdance, which is what I said in the inner circle, basically scrambling around trying to collect disgruntled Elementor users like they're Pokemons. Like, you know, that's their whole thing. It's like, oh, do you hate Elementor? Come over here. Do you hate, are you dissatisfied with Elementor? Come over here. We're a better version of Elementor. Not a lot of vision beyond that, you know? And so it's like, man, this is what we're left with. Like, that's just disappointing, right? If you cared about Oxygen, if you cared about page building and, you know, having a really fantastic tool for once in WordPress to do like professional work, it's just disappointing. It's like, this is what we could have had, but then we were given this situation. It has nothing to do with money invested in the tools. It has nothing to do with anything, right? It doesn't even have to do with the fact that I had automatic CSS for Oxygen. Dude, we made it for Bricks. We're making it for Quick. Our vision for ACSS is well beyond a single tool, right? So that doesn't affect me whatsoever. It's like, and it's disappointing for, you know, Elijah, like for SoFly, honestly. They could have had the number one tool easily, hands down, but now we're in this situation right here. So yeah, I don't know if it's worth going into any other detail points on it, but it's very difficult to understand the strategy, and it's not working out all that well. All right, let's get some other questions going. Ruben says, I built 100+ sites with Oxygen, my day job at a marketing company, and 50+ with Breakdance so far, and it's better. Okay, so Ruben is saying that Breakdance is better than Oxygen. It works for quick websites, but nowhere near the fully dynamic websites you can build with Oxygen. The framework is surely newer, and that shows, but it's full of bugs and limitations. Okay, Lewis wanted Elementor users, but had no idea who the typical Elementor user was, what they wanted, or how to reach them with marketing. As a Breakdance user, it's not worth it. What's not worth it? Where do you stand, Ruben, on, let's ask, because Ruben has done a lot of sites with Breakdance. Do you feel that what is your solution for scalability and maintainability inside of Breakdance? And I would also like to ask Kraka about this as well. What is his workflow? You know, all I've seen is like a couple Lewis videos on how to do this and that. I haven't seen anybody build a site with Breakdance or really talk about a scalable, maintainable workflow within Breakdance. And I would like that. I would like to see that happen. So Ruben, maybe you can shed some light on what do you do to ensure scalability and maintainability with the sites that you build? Also, what is your take on the what I call the walled garden pre-built elements thing? By the way, pre-built elements are in all builders, right? Divi has them. Bricks has pre-built elements. And I mentioned you shouldn't use them in any builder, okay? So this is not just a Breakdance thing. So for anybody listening, watching, if you've been using pre-built elements in any builder, I would highly recommend you stop doing that ASAP. But I want to hear from Ruben what he thinks about scalability and maintainability inside of Breakdance. None of those three arguments hit the mark. We felt abandoned and unsupported because he blindsided us with this whole long-term plan. Well, for me, it was like, well, this tool that I've been using, this tool that I've been teaching, this tool that I've built a bunch of sites with, this tool that I've convinced clients is a really good tool and will be around for the future. I just saw that it was going to die. And so I was like, well, shit, that's disappointing. Because when they laid out the plan for, oh, well, Breakdance is going to be this and Oxygen's going to be this. And I was like, that's never going to work. Like I just knew that was never going to work. So, I mean, we could have seen that. We should have been able to see this from day one. There's still people that can't see it. And I don't care about, Lewis will come in and be like, look at all the updates for Oxygen. We're still up. It's not dead. When I said it was dead, I didn't mean right then and there. Okay. I meant its future is dead. So, like Divi has been around for a long time. And guess what they're doing with Divi? They're rewriting it from the ground up. Imagine that. And they're sticking with one tool, one brand, one vision, So, as much as I can rag on Divi for horrible, Divception, that's where the whole thing came with Divception, pretty much from Divi. They, at least they, listen to their community. They're transparent. They stick with one vision and one lane. And they are legitimately doing everything they can in their eyes to make Divi the best they can possibly make it. So, there is an example of that happening in the WordPress marketplace. I don't even know. I mean, there's so many angles. There's so many angles. What I would really need to talk about this is an outline, and I could go point by point by point. It's hard to talk about it randomly because there's so many things to hit on. And there's been so many claims and so many counters. And it's just like, I start talking about one and my brain fills with like 100 others. And we're just going to be bouncing in different directions. Ruben says, you've reviewed my site on dummies I created with bricks, ACSs and frames, but I still love Breakdance. Okay, I'm still, I'll scroll down a little further. I've got to see what you have to say about scalability, maintainability. Sorry, CPT named resources. 3 types of resources. Only want the logos for resource A. I mean, let me pull up logos. It was logos alpha or something. I know I'm not screen sharing right now. I just want to, I guess I can screen share here. I'm just still trying to imagine what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah, so this is logos alpha right here, which this screen resolution, let me put this in a section here. All right, let's take logos alpha, bring that down into this container here. So you want to use a query loop, but you're saying you have a CPT name resources, 3 types of resources, and you only want to show the logos for resource A. Can you give me an example of like what a resource is that would have a logo? I'm trying to think like what is a resource that would have a logo? Like tools maybe? But then why would a tool have multiple logos? This is why I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. I really need to know the use case. Like, not in abstract terms. Imagine I have a resource. Imagine I have a logo. Like, but that doesn't help me understand. Like, I need a real world situation that it's like, oh, okay, that's a challenge. Let's go ahead and solve that challenge. When it's all abstracty, I just have more questions than I do answers. Is there a frames change log somewhere? I need to know when new frames are released, what they look like. Yeah. Getframes.io/changelog. And then you can click in and you can click to any of these, and then you'll see an example of the frame. So this is a blog post Delta, a narrow text style blog post with optional lead text. All right. So, and then it comes in, it tells you what the locally scope variables are, right? It tells you kind of everything about that frame. Now, you know, the documentation side of this takes a tremendous amount of time. Not all of them are fully documented. Some are not documented at all yet. They just have a photo. Some are partially documented. Some are fully documented. So we're just getting that documentation side of things done as we can. But yeah, you can review this changelog here and see all the new stuff that's getting released. Okay. I want the company I work for to benefit from your inner circle trainings. What can we do to have you give a training? The company you work for, is that like an agency kind of thing? I don't know. Email me, kevin@geary.co, and we can discuss what might be a possibility. Okay. Any ETA other than August for frames for Figma? Yeah, later in August. The next video that I do on frames for Figma will have a fixed date on it. And then on the, by the way, if you go to the coming soon page right now, getframes.io/Figma, this is going to be the sales page for it. So I'm logged in and I was testing something here. If you view it logged out, you won't see I'm a button. Let's go into incognito here. There you go. This is what you'll see. So first of all, make sure you're on the list, right? Put in your email list, hit join list. And this page will transform into the sales page as soon as it's available. So you can bookmark that link if you want to, /Figma. And it will have a date on it very, very, very soon. Okay. Let's see here. Financial services, economics, podcasters. Are these the resources that you were talking about? Is that the same person? Resources. I'm trying to find his other comment. Man, they got to do, you know what I wish? I wish YouTube had a chat over here and then a Q&A thing over here. Kind of like Zoom webinars does. Makes it so much easier. When you're on like a webinar, like separating out Q&A from like random chat, way easier. Way easier. Oh, that was a different person. It's DD that's talking about CPTs named resources. With frames, should I be removing the frames classes and creating my own, adding additional classes for styling, or simply styling the FR classes on the element? I keep saying that this video is coming. I want to cover it in depth is the thing, and I'm trying to collect all the various like use cases and things like that. But there's some very general guidelines, which I have covered the general guidelines before. Let's add a hero section. And let's say it's like this, hero Oscar right here. So here's hero Oscar. Okay, so obviously everything has a class on it. There's FR hero Oscar. There's FR hero Oscar accent heading and FR accent heading. Some people get confused by the fact that there's two classes on an element, on some elements like this. And they're like, well, which one is which? Well, FR accent heading. Here's the thing about when you're using frames, when we're creating frames, when we're using frames, when you're thinking about web design in general, it really helps to think in patterns. You are going to see patterns repeat over and over and over and over again. And then so some things are going to be used once. Some things are going to be used within patterns. They may be the pattern themselves. Like, and this is actually why I give WordPress team, WordPress core, credit for this. They call everything patterns, all these layout things that you can save to your library in the future of WordPress. In FSE land, these are called patterns, right? Which is, it's kind of nice. That's a good name. It's a good name. So if you want me to give them credit for something, there you go. I give them credit for that. It's a good name. I like patterns because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at patterns of things. Like this block right here, yes, it exists. It lives inside of hero Oscar, but really it's an intro pattern. It's a pattern of an introduction to other content, right? It's like centered, it's a centered heading with a little lead text and an accent heading. I could use that within the context of hero Oscar, sure. But couldn't I also use this many other places? So, frames being modular, you can come in here and just type in intro, and there's a bunch of intro patterns, right? Intro alpha is this right here. This is an image group. This is image group delta. See, hero Oscar is two other frames. It's intro alpha combined with image group delta, because it makes sense that image group delta is a pattern in itself that could be used in other areas of the website. It's not like it has to live within this hero section or a hero section at all. It could live in many different places. So understanding the modular nature and thinking in patterns is very critical, not just for using frames, but for just doing web design in general. Because when you're coming up with class names, for example, see, would it make sense? And this goes back to what I was saying about, do you know the philosophy and the thoughts of the developer? It really helps, okay? So here we are. We're having a discussion about philosophy and what goes into putting together a product like Frames so that it works for tons and tons of people, so that it's scalable and maintainable, so it's still completely customizable. Okay, what goes into this? So let's talk through a few things. Would it make sense, this is FR Hero Oscar, for this to be image group Oscar or something? Or like FR Hero Oscar _ image group. Like it's an element in BEM. BEM, you have your block. Hero is our block. Then an element in the block could be this image group right here. But that doesn't make sense. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Because then this thing is tied to its use within this hero situation. And when you use, you can't, this breaks BIM actually. FR Hero Oscar _ image group. If I go put that image group into another section, the class naming no longer makes any sense whatsoever. Makes zero sense, right? So you just can't do that. It just breaks it. And so what does BIM instruct you to do? This is all, a lot of these decisions are based on just general BIM philosophy. BIM says that a block within another block is just another block. Okay? A block within another block is just another block. So don't name it. Its name has no association with the parent block. It's just another block, but it happens to live inside this other block. So this is a block called FR Hero Oscar. This is just another block that happens to be inside of that block called FR Image Group Delta. And now when I take Image Group Delta and I use it somewhere else, it makes perfect sense because it's its own thing and it can live wherever it wants to live. And I can style it at the class level. Okay, so if I style this at the class, let's do something like this. Let's do something like CSS, come down here. Now let's explain this while we're here. So one criticism that I've seen of frames, let me select that again and go down here, is that sometimes there's CSS that says display grid, and here's the grid template columns. And notice it's 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. That's a 3-column grid. When in reality, it should be this. But actually, in reality, this should be done up here, display grid, and then grid template columns, you put in the grid instruction here. So why is it down here in this CSS box? Well, the answer is very simple. Things in web world, the internet, there's this thing called the internet. Have you guys been on it? It moves really fast. It moves really fast. So when we started building frames, with bricks, right? Bricks didn't even support grid. Imagine that, didn't even support grid. So we had to write the CSS to create a grid. Automatic CSS, when we started building frames, didn't have grid variables. So we had to write them like this, right? This kind of thing, or using min-max functions or whatever. So the variables came later. The grid support in bricks came later, and it leaves older frames just done the old way, which is unfortunate. It would be amazing if we could just go like if I could just get my magic wand out and be like, update. Like, that would be fantastic. I would love that. I would like, because then everything would be super consistent. Everything would be done exactly the same way. But unfortunately, I can't do that. When, we release something like variables for grid, which were a fantastic development in ACSS. They've been there for a while now. It would mean you go back by hand every old frame and update it from using raw grid instructions to the variables, which we have no problem doing. We just can't wave a magic wand and make it happen, right? So you're going to run into situations where there's some maybe an old school way of doing this, right? So I'll put this back the way that it was, 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. And I come down and I say, all right, image group delta. So we're talking about, do I edit the class? Do I edit the ID? What do I do here? Okay, so I'm going to make it change this. We're going to say root, and we will do, we'll select all of them, and we'll do inth child, we'll do even, and let's do a border check. Okay, so we'll do a border 5 pixel solid. I haven't even looked at the structure of this. Okay, so my guess was correct. So border 5 pixel solid red, and then what do I want to do? Let's do a transform translate Y, and let's just move this a little bit, okay? So I'm gonna go -1M like that. We could just do a little stagger action here, right? And then I'll come down here. Maybe I even want to do the odds in the opposite direction to create a little bit more of an offset, something like this, okay? And then I go here. Now, all right, it just breaks things up a little bit, right? It's like, it's nothing spectacular, but it breaks things up a little bit. Then I can come in here and I can fill in with images. I'll just slap these in here and bam, bam, bam. Imagine that we're building a martial arts hero section, okay? Here it is, guys. Here it is. Here's our martial arts hero section. All right, so, very, very quickly and easily, I get, some offset triple image action happening here. Maybe I overlap this so they look like they're overlapping into the next section. You can start designing this up any which way you want. When I go use Hero Oscar again, all right, so let's go to a new page. And by the way, you can save this now to your own internal library. Some people are like, I want to remember which ones I've used on my site. Well, if you go save as template, and you could say hero, you can actually change the name here. The name doesn't really matter. So you could say like main hero, right? Maybe that's the main hero type. That's going to save it not in remote templates. It's going to save it to my templates. And then you could just easily add it to another page when you're building. Okay, so I go in here and we're going to go to add new. Okay, hi, publish, edit. All right, and then I'm just going to go in here, templates, main hero, insert. And you're going to have to put in photos again, wherever you want them to go. Now, I could have done import photos, and I think it would have imported the same ones. But it's a new page, right? We don't want to use the same images. We want to use different images. But look, do you see how the staggered effect is already there for me? It's like it already, there it is. It looks exactly like the other one. Why is that? It's because the change that I made was done on the class level. In fact, if I import it from the remote template library, right? Where it was Hero Oscar, is that what it was called? Okay, let's insert. There it is. And it's already got the offset. Why? Because in my installation, I took that class and I made a change to it, which means everywhere I use that frame now, it's going to have this change made to it. Now, let's say you're like, that's cool in most situations, but in this one particular instance, I actually don't want that offset to exist. Is there any way to undo it or override the class? Well, that's where your ID styling comes into play. No problem whatsoever, right? So you can go get this here. Here's your instructions, and I just turn off the class, pop those instructions back in, and I just do transform, I think you can do none here, right? Transform none. There you go, save. Now, in this one-off instance, I have undone that customization. And you can do any customization could be undone. You can add to the customization that was there. It's just a mix of using ID versus class and knowing when to do what, right? So the general philosophy is if I wanted that offset to just generally take place everywhere I use this frame, absolutely I would put that offset on the class that's associated with that frame. If I only wanted to do something on a one-off situation, then absolutely I would just style it at the ID level, no problem. And that brings us back to this accent heading of why does it have two classes? Well, there's a situation where accent headings, we have to see an accent heading as a block in itself. It's its own, it is a global component because this accent heading is not only going to live in this one hero sec, this accent heading could live many different places on the website. And the reality is that thinking in patterns, we know that an accent heading is an accent heading is an accent heading. If you look at good web design, accent headings look the same everywhere you see them, right? They're not associated with a particular frame. So you want to do the design of your accent heading on the FR accent heading class, the class that is not associated with any particular frame whatsoever. So I come in here and I do my general accent heading styling. So I do like uppercase, okay? And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Let's do font weight of 700. Let's do letter spacing of 0.05 em. That's too much, 0.25 em, something like that. Maybe we want to go action on our color here. So we'll just go action on the color. All right, save. That's enough, right? So then I refresh. Oh gosh, that's too big. All right, so we'll go to typography, text S on our accent heading. Save, refresh. Okay, so there's a nice little accent heading. And then you can imagine you did some pseudo elements to it. You did a bunch of fancy shit, right? And you got a fancy little accent heading thing going on here. So the question is, you know, do I want, if I go insert another frame, let's find a frame maybe that has another intro. We'll just look at some section frames here. Okay, there's slider echo, there's this. That one doesn't have an accent heading. This one has an accent heading, but it's a little much. There's a menu. Here's feature section Sierra. Let's just drop that bad boy in, okay? So now we got alternating content where the things touch the edge of the screen. Let me turn this code block on right here. Bam. All right. And so that's pretty good. So now we'll go back to here and look, lo and behold, my accent heading just already knows how it's supposed to look. Well, that's nice, right? Because an accent heading is think of it as a global block, like think in patterns. We need to see the same accent heading everywhere. However, maybe there's a situation where you're like, well, the accent headings that live within intro alpha, this particular introduction frame, I want those to look a little bit different, okay? Then you can style the intro alpha accent heading class. It gives you unlimited flexibility because now here's my global style for an accent heading. Here's my style for an accent heading when it lives in intro alpha. And then you also have ID level styling, which you could just one-off do whatever you wanted with. So you have 3 different paths that you can go down it's just having more options in your toolbox, right? It's like a plumber shows up with a toolbox with one tool in it. He's probably not getting much done, right? Not going to live a good life. But if he has multiple tools and it's like he runs into a situation where he's like, oh, this calls for this other tool. That's what we're giving you. We're just giving you multiple tools and you decide which path you want to take. So you have global styling here. You have styling related to this thing that lives in a specific other context. And then you have ID styling, which is always just one-off, do whatever you want with it. Okay, so you have 3 different options for styling frames. But you see the one I did ensures, look at this, accent heading there, accent heading here, accent heading. They just all look like they're supposed to look. And this is why when you're building a website with classes and you're building a website with something like frames, as you do work, the work you have to do in the future minimizes, right? The work becomes front-loaded because like you just saw, now I never have to style my accent. Like every other frame that I add, the accent heading's already done. Well, imagine if there's other parts of the frames that you're adding that are already done for you, right? Because these things are repeating patterns that we need to see consistency in all throughout the website. So the website, as you're building it, actually gets easier and easier to build as you go because more stuff is already done for you by the work that you did earlier. When you're not using classes, when you're using ID level style, that's not the case. This is the same amount of work on every page. And then you're stuck in copy paste land and all this other nonsense going on. I mean, this is like, you know, I'm showing an example of how a global class, really dramatically helps things out. And by the way, if I ever need to change, we already know this, right? If we ever need to change the color of all of our headings, like, oh no, we want them to be base medium now. Okay, save, refresh. Guys, they're all base medium. Now, go show me how to do that in Breakdance. Why is that dead? Why are we declaring that to be dead? Show me. Show me. Don't stop talking. Show me why that's apparently dead, right? I'll wait. I got time. I'll wait. I'm here every Wednesday. You can come on as a guest and show me, okay? It's up to you. All right, so Hopefully that answers that question. We can look more at general structure. Okay, so let's go into here. Let's look at this. Feature card Sierra. Well, you can hover over this and immediately see there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? This is actually a very complex frame. This took us, this was a lot of discussion. This was a lot of, yeah, it's because, you know, making an image break out to the left and the right, while keeping this content, by the way, is in content alignment with the page, okay? It's hard to see on this screen resolution. Let me tone down the screen resolution right here. Okay, display settings. This is screen number 2. There we go. Okay. See where this content stops? It's not like it's going all the way out here because the screen got wider. It stops at the content width of the website. If we look at this in the inspector, by the way, these are all LIs and a UL, right? Because, you know, cross your T's, dot your I's, follow best practices, my friend. Get your list item structure going. All right, so we've got this. Let me grab this one. That is the section, or the container. That's the container, right? So that's container width. Notice the image just like busts out the side over there. But notice the content is perfectly aligned with the left edge of the container. So getting this to happen, and this stops at the right edge of the container, while your images break out either to the left or the right, there's a lot of math involved. There's a lot of stuff involved. This is an example of a frame. You know, people say they want this all the time. This is a common pattern online, right? It's not like we engineered anything, any new concept. It's just a concept where when people want it, they just don't quite realize how much work it takes. Not to mention, you know, you can flip-flop these automatically. Like you can say, I want the first one to have the content on the left and the image on the right here, and then it'll alternate from that point forward. Like the alternating is done automatically. So a lot of stuff is done automatically. Not to mention, notice it says CSS tab. Like, hey, go look in the CSS tab. There's a little clue right here. Go look in the CSS tab. So we click on Feature Grid Sierra. We come down, CSS. And we look in here, and what do we find? Do we find a shitload of CSS that you have to try to figure out? Like, oh, how was this done? No, in fact, all you see is some locally scoped variables. And one of them says feature span 5. And it actually has a little comment right here. I don't know if you could see it in the screen resolution, but it says the width of the features column. And then there's this grid card gap. Okay, that's the gap inside of the card of the grid. And then your image aspect ratio can be controlled. So you could just start, and then the box layout width, if you're, see, here's another thing. Does the person using this frame have a normal website, or are they using a boxed layout? Because if they're using a boxed layout, we got to change some shit, right? We got to change it around. Got to think of all the situations and context. So we have this little variable for people using a boxed layout. This will make this usable on their website as well. Okay, so we come in here and features, let's just change features span 5. And going into like the thought process behind this, how do we make it as easy as we can possibly make it? So I'm gonna change this to 4. Notice that the feature span, okay, this ratio has completely changed, right? I'm gonna go back to 5 so you can see it. There was 4, or there's 5, there's 4. Now I can go in the other direction, there's 6. See, I'm adjusting the ratio. Look at how all of them are changing. All of them are changing. So this is a 12-column grid, which means 6 is halfway. So this is a 50-50 grid now. So I can go the other way. I can go more content, less image, or I can go the opposite direction. Let's go 5, 4. I have more image, less content, right? So narrower content, bigger image. All I'm doing is changing a number on a locally scoped variable. It was like, I mean, think about this, right? Wouldn't you normally need 2 variables? You would need a variable for this column size and this column size. Well, what we did on the back end is we just did math for you, right? So you just tell us how much the feature is going to span, and we just take care of the rest of the math on the back end. And so it makes it very easy. You don't have to know how that card was built in order to change the ratio. All you have to know is I got to change 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 or whatever. I just got to find the ratio that I want. By the way, 4.5, oh, that actually won't work. That breaks up the math. Sometimes you can do that. You can like kind of dial it in even more. You can dial it in with the gap though. Check out this gap, 1.5. Look, I can get micro adjustments using my gap. Okay, that's another way to do this. And that's just to demonstrate there with the gap controls that you have available to you. And then you could play around with the image aspect ratio. Like you want to force these images to all be squares. I just went from, what was it, 6 to 4? Yeah, I went from 6 to 4 to 4 to 4 to make them all squares. And you can just sit here and play with these things, right? You don't have to analyze a bunch of CSS. So even though it's a complex structure, still there are controls that make it very, very easy for you to manipulate it. And because I'm manipulating it on the class, here's another thing, guys. It's going to have that manipulation every instance of this. But what if you were like, no, I just want this one instance, just this one instance. I want the cards to be 50-50, okay? Watch this. I'm just going to steal feature span 5 right here, turn off the class, go to root, drop in feature span 5, and then change this to feature span 6. And now just this instance of the grid, they're even columns. Just this one. Why just this one? Because I'm controlling the feature span at the ID level. All right. And this, by the way, is the power of locally scoped variables. I didn't have to write a whole new grid thing. Nope. There was already something declared called feature span. I just stole it, put it on the ID level, and now I can manipulate it for this one instance of the frame. This is what ultimate flexibility and scalability and maintainability looks like, okay? The ability to make these changes on the fly and affect so many different areas, even without even knowing how the thing was built, okay? We could go example after example after example. And I think this does help people because, you know, it is, I'm not saying there isn't a learning curve, right? There is absolutely a learning curve. The argument is the learning curve is well worth it. the amount of, you spend a little bit of time doing the learning curve thing, and then you just save a tremendous amount, like exponentially more time saved on the back end. Once you've got the hang of it, exponential. And then the joy of like, I'm rebuilding a website right now, sbgatlanta.com. Built this site long ago, built this site. And go and if you guys want to see like, or, you know, talk about this concept of like evolution of, you know, ability and skills plus evolution of just CSS in general and all of that. I go look at this website and I just want, you know, people like it a lot. You know, the client really loves it. But I look at, you know, the things that I did to build it and some of the decisions that I made. And then this was an Oxygen. And I'm just like, I want to jump off a bridge face first. What absolute chump built this thing right here? Now I'm rebuilding it, and I'm rebuilding it with bricks and frames and automatic CSS. There was no automatic CSS when this was built. There was no frames when this was built. There's no a lot of things. There was no a lot of things. And even my own skills and stuff have developed, right? So obviously things change and things move fast on the internet. I started rebuilding this with frames and bricks and automatic CSS, and it's just like bam, 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 bam. Like it's just night and day different. And the workflow is just, it's kind of a joy, honestly. It's like, wow, this is so easy. I'm having a lot of fun with this. So, and then I can try new things and I can make some adjustments and on and on and on. So yeah, it's like when you get through the little bit of learning curve that's there, the door that opens to you, it's unbeatable in my opinion. Okay, did anybody have questions about any other frames while we're into this mode right here? Have you noticed aspect ratio issues with Safari? I've been having problems with it and stopped using it. I mean, I noticed a lot of problems with Safari, but aspect ratio has been supported for a while. Let's see. I mean, we're at 92% on aspect ratio, and we have support for Safari. It's probably old. It's just older versions of Safari may give you problems. But it's been, you know, 2021 is when they started supporting it, it looks like. So it is technically supported, but older devices, older stuff that's out of date, yeah, there may be some aspect ratio issues. I consider aspect ratio to be a little bit of a progressive enhancement. Feature Grid Sierra. Notice too that on Feature Grid Sierra, as the example, like I'm able to manipulate the images, all of them at the same time, without having to go find the image, right? And then get its class. And see, if I did find the image and I activated its class and I looked at the CSS, all I would see is that locally scoped variable that's back here. And that this is where you change it, right? So you can actually open a frame and change a lot of the things within it without having to go find the elements within it. You can just change them from the parent area. It's not the case on every frame, but it is the case on a lot of frames. Every frame has presents unique challenges that have to be overcome. And we have to come up with like, all right, what's the best approach to this? And so there's going to be differences between the frames. And so that means each frame has you have to add it to the page. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the time. You have to add it to the page, something like this, and then just do a quick inspection of like, okay, what's going on here? How is this thing put together? And so you just kind of take a look at it. Now there's some helpers like, hey, CSS tab. Hey, a lot of the stuff's in the CSS right here. We put this little LIs over here to let you know. These are list items, by the way, right? Inside an unordered list. So you just take a few minutes and people are like, man, it takes a little bit of time to look through that frame and figure out how it was done and how I'm going to edit it. Okay. A few minutes. Because if you tried to build this on your own, I mean, let's just take the average person, start the clock, have at it, my friend, have at it. And let's see how long does it take them? There are some people, it would probably take them 3 hours to build this frame. Okay, so if it takes you 5 minutes to sit here and like, all right, how did they put this thing together? All right, what can I change and adjust? All right, what does this thing do? All right, 6, little 6, little 4. Okay, all right, I get that. All right, and you're looking through. All right, how do I do that? What does this thing do? All right, oh, look at that. Oh, change some. Okay, you're just doing take 5 minutes of inspection. Guess what? You're still 2 hours and 55 minutes saved, right? Like, just drop your content in and move on with your life. By the way, you can delete these, query loop this bad boy. You got a whole dynamically generated alternating section of content, right? So yes, they may take a little bit of inspection. They may take a little bit of playing around with, but in a lot of cases, they're still saving you hours of work. And this frame alone would save hours. Like then add that up to the entire website for all these various different things that you might be doing. So the argument is not you're going to be able to pop into a frame and it like the Matrix, it just, instantly exactly what you're supposed to do with it. Yeah, it may take a little poking around. Also, there may be some documentation to help you. Also, maybe eventually there's a video showing exactly how the frame was used. That's my ultimate goal in life, is that every one of these more advanced frames that are like let's do another one. Let's do, let's get rid of that. Let's go here. Like we saw one earlier that was a bit complicated. In fact, Waji made this argument just the other day. Let's go to our maps here. Let's go to map. Is it map or it's a contact section, I think? Okay, let's do contact section Foxtrot right here. And then there's this code block right here. This has actually been updated like multiple times. And I'm actually not the one that updated it. Let's go to the front end and see what we've got going on. Okay. PHP class does not exist. FR slider controls. Okay, so this requires the frame slider, which I clearly don't have activated on this install. So let's go over here, automatic CSS. Let's go to frames. Let's go down. Let's go slider, beta, slider controls. Save. Okay, refresh. There we go. Okay, so I've got this list here. We've got markers that you can position dynamically. So this marker is just chilling. It's waiting for a position, right? Both of these are query loop compatible. So you can query the markers onto this map. You can query these things in this grid. It's actually pulling already for locations, which is interesting. Probably pulled let's go in and see what our query loop says. So marker, CSS, query loop. I was wondering if I probably already used this frame on this install. Yeah, because I already have a query loop set up. So I'm pulling locations in. Of course, there's only 3 locations. Ideally for this one, you want 5, 6, 7, 8, something that allows us to actually use this vertical slider right here. But this is going to query these cards in here. It's going to query the dots all over the map. You can switch the map out. It can be a state map. It could be a city map, a town map, or whatever map you want. You can swap that out. Right now, it's a world map. And then when you hover this, it's actually, see the dot changing, right? It's actually pulling in the name. And now imagine those dots actually had coordinates. You got to go into a custom field, put in your coordinates, yada, yada, yada. This frame right here is like, Waji was like, this could be like a plugin in itself. Like it could be its own little plugin that you could sell, because this kind of interactive map where you get the, the beacons with hover effect and all of that. This is a very common thing that people would want to use. And if you sat down to build this, I mean, we're talking about if you knew exactly how to solve every challenge that comes with it and knew exactly how to do, dynamic positioning with data attributes and then you knew how to write all the JavaScript that's also helps it. I mean, 3 hours, 4 hours, probably 3 hours if you knew exactly what to do and like how to do everything. If you didn't, I mean, this is a quagmire situation, right? I mean, you could be 10 hours deep and like on forums going, what the fuck do I do now? But here it is. I mean, you could just insert it, and then you could just take a minute to just kind of see how it's constructed, and you could read the documentation. But a frame like this, I've done a video. I did a video on how to build this frame in the inner circle, step by step, and I think that was a 90-minute. Yeah, so that was 90 minutes, and I was moving kind of quick, right? Because I had already built it once, and so I was just doing a video of now rebuilding it, how to do it. So yeah, it's just hours and hours and hours and hours saved, right? Okay. Please demo the map on a city level. So this is a global map, right? You need to go get a city map, turn it into an SVG. I showed in the thing how to swap the maps out. It's just an SVG. That's all it is. So you just need an SVG of whatever city, you are in. And then imagine you'll see like Atlanta right here, right? Or just maybe a map of the state of Georgia, right? Because then we can have Alpharetta's over here and Atlanta's here and Savannah's here. So this would be like a state map. I will go back into, just to give you an idea here, Bricks dashboard, okay. Services. The problem with these installs is I use them randomly for so many different things. Like it doesn't even have the locations CPT anymore that was pulling from, which is odd because it's pretending it still exists, but then of course I don't even see it here. But I make CPTs, delete CPTs, make pages, delete pages, it's just, these installs these are not a typical install. There's like shit going on everywhere. But you have two custom fields. You have a Y coordinate and an X coordinate custom field. And you just put in the coordinates and it'll take that dot and it'll slap it right there onto that grid, wherever you need it to go. And then it's linked to this query loop. It's a query loop in itself. There's some JavaScript to help it out. So you just swap the map, put in your coordinates, and you're done. The map frame made a big difference when showing the website to my client. They loved it. Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really fantastic thing. And it doesn't even have to be with locations. You can do it with service areas. So like these have addresses, right? But you can easily remove the address and phone number, and you're just left with the city name. And then you could just have all these cities that you service in a state, and so you can use it for that. I'm sure there's other use cases that people are going to come up with maybe events. There's probably something you could do with events here. I don't know. People get creative with this stuff. They start using frames for stuff we didn't even imagine them using a frame for, and it's really fun. But more advanced frames like this, I want to do tutorials. It's just, man, there's so many videos that I need to create constantly every single day. I feel like I'm 10 steps behind, and there's 1,000 things to do. And I feel bad for all the things that, I want to have out there that are not out there yet. It's just the life. It's the life, I guess. I'm a newbie in HTML and CSS and trying to make a tech news website. Any advice would be helpful. So this is a situation where it's just like, there's a specific thing that you're going to need to do that you can get help with. But the question of, I'm new and I need a tech website. Like a tech news website, I've already in my mind, there's 1,000 different directions we can go with a tech news website. So what I really need is like, here's the direction I'm going in. What would you recommend? Or here's a specific challenge I ran into. What would you recommend? And then we can actually solve that. All right, let me close some tabs out here. We're getting a little tabby. We can look at, we can just throw in some other frames that people might use and see a little bit of what's going on here. Do any look interesting? Let's see. There's actually a really helpful frame. So this section right here. So I can put this, let's just go up here and go, you know how you want a real image as a background image? But people are like, I don't really know how to do that. And it needs to have an overlay and all this stuff. I don't really know how to do that. So you can actually just go into background. See this? Background alpha, insert. And we take our section and go layout, position, relative to catch it. Oh, it also helps if Bricks puts it in the section for you. So now I have a real image as a background image, and I just, it's just like half a second, bam, there it goes. And then I can put whatever content in here that I want to, you know, and it's automatically going to be overlaid. Make it kind of white text here. Actually, I don't know if I have pro mode on. Let's just go down here, typography, make it white. Okay. And then I can come over here and it's like, all right, how does this background alpha image work? Read CSS. Do you see that? Read CSS tab. It's kind of telling me right there. It's like, hey, buddy, hey, read the CSS tab. So I go down here and there's just a comment. That's all that exists down here. We'll zoom in. And Bricks really needs to work on the contrast ratio of these comments. But it says to use this frame correctly, ensure that the parent container is set to position relative. So you saw me do that. It's also advisable to add the following code to the parent container CSS tab. Root, isolation, isolate. Copy, parent section, CSS, root. Actually, I can just paste it. Root, isolation, isolate. And that'll ensure that if you don't know what isolation, isolate does, it resets the stacking context to ensure that your overlay here is not going to cause any problems, or your overlay is not going to disappear on you. That's another thing too. Because if you go add a background, that only happens when you add a background image to the section. Let's see if we can remove isolation, isolate now and see that effect take place. Let's go down here. Yep, see. Now you lose your image and your overlay because they're actually behind the background color of the section. And so we know that that's a common problem, right? When you're doing this uses -1z index, right? And when you're using -1z index, you can run into stacking issues if you don't reset the stacking context properly. So that's why we have that little comment baked in. It says, hey, buddy, read the CSS tab. And you can read it and go, okay, I need to do this. And now it works. Okay, see, try to put in these little helpers everywhere. Because we are doing, nobody else has a frame with a real background image with an over. This doesn't exist in anybody else's design kit that I know of right here. But it exists in ours, because it's a very common thing that you want to be able to do. All right, so there's how you get, oh, and you want to change your overlay? Okay, here's another situation, right? Well, this class, and I have used this frame before. That's why it has an Action Ultra Dark Trans 60 on it. See, we're in an install where I've just been playing around with various things and things get left in, you know, odd fashion. But I can do this anything I want with the overlay, right? We could do all of our base transients right here. So I can do base trans 50, save. I get the little previews, like, isn't that nice and helpful? So I can come in and say, what would it look like? Which one do I want? Which one? Maybe I want that one right there. Okay, save. Then I go to the front end. Bam. So we got a real image in the back, not a background image. It's a real image in the background. And then we can actually just swap that out. But here's the thing, right? Let's put this girl in. Perfect. Nice. All right. Rocking and rolling, right? Oh, we need to position her better. Okay. Well, what should I do? Should I change the object position on this class, or should I change the object position on this ID level? Well, my friends, the question is, is every background image going to need exactly the same positioning? And the answer is no. So what I should do, because I want this particular image to look a certain way, I'm going to go ID level, and I'm going to go 50%, and then I'll do something like 20%. And there we go, 30%. I just want her face right in the right spot. Bam. Okay. And then I may want to make the section taller. I can do anything. But here's the thing people will criticize, right? There are legitimate criticisms. There are illegitimate criticisms. So somebody will say, okay, well, you selected the image. I don't know about object position. I don't know what this 50%, 30% means, right? This is the x-axis positioning, y-axis positioning. Frame should do that for me. And it's like, okay, all right. Is Frames going to magically foresee the exact image that you're going to put in there and be like, oh, well, if you're going to choose that one, then you're going to need this automatic object position. That's just not possible. It's not possible. So this is what I say, like, Frames is not a magic pill. You do still kind of need to know what you're doing a little bit. It just dramatically speeds everything up. It just does a whole bunch of work for you that you don't have to do. But you still, as the developer, should know what object position does, right? And know that, okay, if my image is not positioned properly, I'm going to need to go tweak the object position to make that happen. Because there are things that are just not foreseeable. And there are things that are just one-off custom things that you just gotta do. You just gotta do it as the developer. That's on you, buddy. That's on you. Okay. So If you did this object position 50%, 30% on the class, then every image you add with background alpha is going to have the same object position. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you want to set a global default, but then you want to override that default at the ID level on individual instances. You can go that route too. You have a lot of flexibility, Let's browse. Is there anything else that, is just interesting that jumps out at us here? There's a WooCommerce one right there. Checkout alpha. Guys, we put, Tobias is on vacation, right? Or I'd pull Tobias over here. No, Tobias isn't here. Tobias is in Germany. He's never here. All right. He works remote, but I would pull him in and be like, Tobias, how long did you spend on this? How long did it take you to create checkout alpha? Now, some of the time is because we have to think about this in the grand scheme of like, thousands of people are going to use this. So we got to try to make it work for everybody. But then there's just a lot of stuff it's just a lot of work. Something like checkout. Now, I don't have WooCommerce installed, so this isn't going to do us any good to really look at it. There you go. Okay, we can get a live preview. So here's a live preview of it. There's a lot here, right? This is a completely custom checkout page for WooCommerce. I don't know, 10 hours, 15, a lot of hours you don't want to spend. I'll tell you that right now. And so if you want a custom checkout page for WooCommerce, just being able to one click insert that into your checkout template, I don't know, saves a bunch of time. Here's a vertical header. You know how many hours we put into the vertical header? A lot of hours in the vertical header. Here's a nice little testimonial section lemma, right? This, I would go delete, query loop this bad boy up. Where are my testimonials? Query them in. Put a little custom field for doing the little short call out quote. I dynamically generate that whole little grid back again. That's what I would do. Let's check out these are very interesting. What would you imagine that these would be? Wouldn't you imagine that this would be an icon with a static number in here, and then this thing on Google is next to it? Okay, let's actually inspect this. Badge alpha icon. Look at what it says right here. With data attribute. Why does that have a data attribute? Let's take a look. Then you get your little label here. But let's go down, style, attributes, badge value. We already have something set up for you called data badge value 4.8. And what if I change this to 3.8? Okay. And we hit save, and we go on the front end, 3.8 stars on Google. Why would you want to do that, right? Well, this allows you now to create a custom field and dynamically generate these ratings if you want to. Now, if you don't want to, you just want to put in some text here, you can just put in static text just like it is right now. But this gives me the power to come in and choose a rating from dynamic data from somewhere else for an element. Like maybe you're doing reviews of products and you want to give them all a rating inside of a custom field in your CPT, and then you want to use this badge to output the rating on the front end. The badge is already set up with a data attribute to dynamically pull a rating, because that's what it is. It's a rating badge, right? So it's already set up for things like dynamic data. And it uses a data attribute because you might want to change the color when the rating is above or below a certain amount. You might want to do a lot of advanced things with this. We don't know. But we use data attribute here because it gives you tremendous flexibility. And if you don't happen to need any of that, it's just as easy to come over here and change the rating in the data attribute with a static value, right? But if you want to use it for something advanced, you're not limited. In fact, a lot of the advanced stuff is already done for you. If you don't want to use the advanced stuff, it's okay. You can just put a static value in. It's maximum flexibility, right? And these things are like hidden. Like you could look at a badge and a lot of people will look at a frame, a picture of a frame, and they'll go, that's a fucking badge. So what? Until you inspect it, and then you realize, oh, there's a lot more going on here. That's actually very, very helpful and useful in something as simple as a little badge. There's a lot under the hood, okay? That you just don't, if you're looking at screenshots of frames, you're like, okay. But, and again, some people will be like, yeah, I wish they had more style. And it's like, could you, take 2 minutes, just read the philosophy of frames. Philosophy of frames is they're all unstyled on purpose because you don't want to work backwards. You want to undo a bunch of styling in order to get your work done. You want to just add the thing and then start working. So that's what's really, really, really nice. See, every frame, I'm just adding random, they all have like little goodies inside them. Little goodies. Let's keep looking. Let's keep looking. I'm really wanting to help people understand the like global class versus ID versus the frame specific class, that kind of thing. Let's take a look at this frame. And on this, let me go, where's our screen resolution? No, that. Okay, done. I feel like I'm zoomed in. Yeah, okay, wow. Definitely don't look at frames when you're on like 8,000% zoom. All right, so notice that this is overlapping into the header. And people are like, I don't know, what's it doing in my head? Well, this isn't a hero, all right? It's not a hero section. It's not designed to be first. Let's put a section above it, okay? In fact, later, why don't we just put a hero section above it? Let's just go in here and grab a hero. All right, let's grab hero, what do we want? Hero Kilo, hero Echo, hero Charlie. Let's do hero Charlie, little hero Charlie action. All right, let's bring that up here, okay? See, this is probably not the best one because now you're getting well, I don't know. Once we swap these out, maybe this creates so you can just play around. The other thing with frames that I love is like, imagine this is the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu page, right? Jiu-Jitsu, all right. You could just experiment and like figure out if an idea or concept is gonna work. And like, look at all the work this has already done for me that I can now just play with and experiment with. I wanna come over here and change the background color. Maybe we're gonna go dark on this, okay? Maybe we're gonna go light in here. So Charlie, so this is another good part to just talk about like, all right, are we gonna do this at the ID? Are we gonna do this at the class? If I want every hero Charlie, like by default it's BG light, right? I want every hero Charlie to be dark, then I would want to do this absolutely at the class. And then what I would want to do, because knowing now that the background of hero Charlie is always going to be dark, I always want the content for hero Charlie to be light. That makes sense, right? So I wouldn't have to do this change. It would only make sense to do this change at the class level. And so now I will always have hero Charlie be dark and its text to be white. Does that mean that it's that way forever and ever and ever? No, you can always change it, or you can still change one-off instances, deactivate the class. Why does this work? Because ID styling always overrides class styling. So at any point in time, you could just go do whatever you want at the ID level. Okay, so here's this, and then we would just swap these images out. And I want to take a look at how these images behave in just a second, right? Imagine that these were more jiu-jitsu pictures. All right, that one actually is. This is not. That's like MMA. But now this section's starting to come. And in fact, I want this section to be white, right? Always. I want it to always default to being white. All right. So now we're just going to take a look at this on the front end and say, does this kind of flow? And so I was wondering about this overlap with this overlap. Kind of there's a lot of busyness going on in here. So I don't know if this would be the best thing to have. So maybe what we do, let's close this builder out. We don't need that tab. Oh, we don't need that tab either. All right, so let's grab a feature section. I know maybe I want some feature cards to break this up. Oh, that was definitely not the right icon to click. Don't click the WordPress icon. All right, we're gonna hit templates and we're gonna go feature. And let's see if we can find a little feature section in here that makes some sense. Feature cards, maybe feature section alpha. It's looking a little good. See, another criticism, people are like, it takes a lot of time to look through here and find the features that I want and the this card and that. What would you be spending this time doing, by the way? I mean, brainstorming what you want there. Like that requires sitting around and thinking too. And then you got to build the thing, right? Isn't it easier to just find like find something that's going to work really well? So here's feature grid alpha. Might want to put that in. Let's do feature grid alpha. It's nice and simple, right? Now, because it's feature grid alpha, I'm going to put a section in to contain it. And so I'm going to drop that section right between these two. And then this container I can take out because that's what feature grid alpha is going to be. That's where it's going to live. So feature grid alpha right here. And then, it would be nice if Bricks could actually insert these in the correct places. So now I've got these feature cards. Now we have a little bit of a separation between here and here. And then I can decide, you know what? I don't want these icons. So maybe I can just delete the icons. So we'll come in here and delete these icons from these features. We're only going to want the text in the cards. Okay. So you're free to do that. Now that's an HTML change. That's not an ID, CSS, styling change, HTML change, right? So every time if I import feature grid alpha again, let's just do it again. Remote templates, feature grid alpha, insert. Okay. And let's drag them to be right above or under the other ones. Look, they imported again with their images because an HTML change is not going to affect the main frame. If you want this to be like a new frame or a new version of feature card alpha that you can insert without the image, that's when you come up here, right click, save as template. And you could say like feature card, no icon, something like that, save as template. Now it's saved like that in your local install. And now you can insert that wherever you want. And it's not going to have an icon when you insert it. So you have maximum flexibility. It's just knowing the little different, kind of tweaks and adjustments you can make here. And the other features of bricks that you can use and leverage to your advantage. So let's get rid of that one. We didn't really want that. Okay, so like, best instructors. What would your features say, right? 500, 5-star reviews, that kind of thing. All right, so imagine we put in content here. Now, does this look the way that we want it to go yet? I don't know. I don't know. We can start maybe working on styling this up. I can actually take this section right here, pad section. A lot of people are like, hey, I want to, I don't want this section to be so tall. All right, pad section S shortens it up a little bit. Now, what about this overlap? Are we just stuck with this level of overlap right here? I also want to give this a, let's go BG base ultra light. Okay, give it a little bit of a background color here. Now I'm going to grab the cards. I actually want those cards to have a white background in them. Okay, so that they still have some contrast. See what we're doing? See where we're going here? All right, we're going to hit save. And the question I have is, am I stuck with that overlap? First of all, it's like, how was this overlap even accomplished? How are these images positioned? They're rotated. There's just like a beginner might be like, oh my God, my head's spinning. I'm looking at, overlapping images that are all tilted and I don't know what's going on here. Okay, well, let's take a look. Let's just go take a look-see, as they say. I want to add another section so that we can scroll down here because I want you to see the overlap that's happening down here. All right, because it's actually overlapping the top and the bottom at the same time. Okay. Let's go take a look-see. Look right here. It says, hey, buddy. Hey, you, CSS tab. Okay. So we're going to activate the class. We're going to come down and see what's going on in the CSS tab. Okay. So there's section space L is going on there. Let's see if there's anything in Foxtrot. No, there's not. Here's the image group right here. And here's another, go back to what we said before about an image group being its own block. And should it be assigned to that section or should it live on its own and be very modular? Here's an example where the image group does in fact live with this particular frame. It's called content grid foxtrot _ image group. Why is that? Because this image group was designed to live in a certain context. It is not designed as a modular image group. This is not designed to go use this anywhere you want. This is supposed to only live in this Foxtrot section right here. So that's why it's named the way that it is. And then we open this up and we see, hey, there's our aspect ratio. Again, you're looking for these locally scoped variables because anytime there's like a head spinning situation, there's almost always going to be locally scoped variables. That it's just like, hey, look at the variable name, image width. Okay, so I want to change the width of my images. Let's go 25M. Look at them. They're growing because this content right here, maybe there's a little less content. Maybe there's a little more content. And we want these images to always behave a certain way. And so we give you little controls here, right? I can go 20 on the images. That's clearly not good because they're too small. They've become disconnected with each other. So I can just easily, dial this in. What kind of overlap am I actually looking for? So that's controlling the overlap here. It's controlling a little bit of the overlap up here. But look at this, image block offset. Now, granted, if you don't know block versus inline axes, this is a little bit new, but again, we're trying to design for the future, okay? So you have a block axis that's up and down. You have an inline axis that's left to right. These are called logical properties. In different writing modes, these axes can actually flip. That's why they went from Y and X to block and inline, and block start instead of top and all that stuff. Okay. So the block offset is set to 1M. What if I put this at 2M? Look what's going to happen. 3M, 4M. What if I go 0.5M? What if I go 0.25M? What if I go negative? Can I go negative? Oh, look at this. 1.2. Look, I can just dial in the exact overlap that I want. What about the inline offset? What does this do? 4, 3. Oh, you want them to go that way too? Across that axis? Yeah, no problem. Okay? Literally just sit here. And by the way, I'm doing this on a class. So every time I insert this, it's going to have my adjustments. But what did we already learn? What if there's a situation where it's like, no, just in this one instance of the frame, hey, just steal the locally scoped variables and drop them at the ID level and now start changing them here. And now these changes only affect this one instance of the frame. And look, you wanted to change the image rotation? Well, we already knew that you wanted to change the image rotation. So I can say 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, do whatever you want. Go negative. Why don't we just go you want them to go the opposite direction? Hey, they can go the opposite direction. You don't need to know what's going on with the CSS or how all this stuff. You just need to know what is a locally scoped variable, play around with the value and watch what it does, right? And then just dial in exactly what you need. Almost all the frames, anytime we can do this with a frame, we do this because it's not just friendlier for beginners, dude. It's friendlier for me. When I'm using these frames as a user, I love that I can just I don't have to go, remember the 3-month rule that I always talk about? Like, are you going to remember how you did it in 3 months? I don't remember how I did half the shit in these frames. They all have their own challenges, their own things that we're trying to accomplish with them. They have to be flexible in various regards, right? And so you see now that we've lost the overlap up top. That's probably because the images need to get bigger, right? And then I need to change the offsets. So the inline offset, the block offset, let's go back to 1.25. Now we got our little overlap up here and our overlap down here. So I love the fact, because I will open a frame and use it. I don't want to go see, remember back to how it was done and dig through the little CSS things. I definitely don't want to dig through input fields. Somebody said about this the other day, another common thing people say is, there's stuff in the CSS. Some people have something against like stuff being in the CSS. They want everything to be in these input fields. But everything has pros and cons, guys. I mean, the downside of if we put everything in the input fields, you know what your life would be? Click, look, click, look, click, look, click. Every element, by the way, into this element and that element and this element and then into these panels. Oh, shit's scattered everywhere. There's kind of a downside to that, if I'm being honest, right? Way easier for me to just grab this, come down here. Now look, I can see if I want to dig into the code. Here's all the code right here. If I want to dig in, I can dig in, but I don't have to. I can change so many things from this one area. To me, that's a lot easier, especially when you've got the locally scoped variables and you don't even have to remember or look at how the CSS was done. You just look at the variables. What do they mean? What do they do? We're trying to make it as easy as possible. And there have been some criticisms where it's like, damn, you are 100% right. We got to fix that. We got to make that better. The fact that some things use grid variable, like we already discussed earlier, grid variables versus 1FR. 100%, I would love every frame to do things exactly the same way and to all be tremendously consistent. But we don't have a magic wand, right? And so we will go back and fix as much of that as possible, but this is how it is. Matthias says, finally, an in-depth frames tutorial. Having your shit in CSS instead of the builder input fields is the bomb. Yeah, I mean, I didn't plan on going this direction, but yeah, this is WDD Live. Like WDD Live goes, it can go in any direction. You never know what you're gonna get when you tune in. That's exactly what I like about frames as a developer. It's nice to see when things are thought out and that I can quickly make adjustments and even build with my own ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Like, The amount of work that's done for you, and then you can just play with it, and then you can add on whatever you want to add on. Like this right here. These images could have pseudo elements. Like PB 101, we just learned about pseudo little accent design elements. You can go in and start adding your little pseudo accent elements to really spice this up. You can add a little background pattern in here. I mean, this frame can turn into something really, really great. But look at all the things that you didn't have to do, right? We're not trying to create a tool that designs sites for you. That's still your job. But look at all the stuff that it does for you to get you to the base level starting point that you don't have to think about, you don't have to consider, you don't have to do. And so much accessibility stuff that people don't think about. I mean, when you add all these images in here, they're already wrapped in figure tags for you, right? The captions are turned off. And that's just images, right? Every little aspect of this has so much done for you under the hood. You know, I think the value is pretty undeniable. It's just getting people, and that's my job. My job is the education side of things. Educate people on how to use the frames, educate people on how to manipulate the frames, styling at the ID versus classes. That is my job. Please check the modal. Don't want to be a chump and keep posting my question. But it's quite severe to me as it's a project that's going live soon. Bev is sitting here and rushing me about it. Okay, Marcel. Let me find your question. I'm having some heavy trouble using the modal in a current build. I have a grid of WP users, and on click, this is one of those examples again of like, I got to wrap my head around it. Hang on. I have a grid of WP users. Okay, so you're querying users. These could be like maybe authors or members or something like that. On click, and on click on the user, I want the modal to simply show more info of the user, like their emails. Or this could be like team members, right? Like team members or something. And you want to show maybe a team member bio, and you want to have their social links and so on and so forth. Okay. So Marcel, question for you. What exactly is not working about that right now? Is there one specific, what is the modal not showing up? Is the modal have the wrong content? Can you give me some specifics? I will gladly sit here and play with this concept. This is going to close out WDD Live. What time is it? Dear gosh. Time has gotten away from us in this episode. 1:18 p.m. What time do we start? 11, 12, 1. We're 2 hours in. I wanted these to be 90 minutes. Gosh. Oh, God. All right, Marcel. Me and you, buddy. It's just me and you left, probably. No, there's 93 people still here. Shout out to OGs. I imagine people just let this play in the background as they work. I don't know what people's game plan is for WDD, but we get deep into this. The modal is not showing in the builder, has not been triggered. Okay, well, let's just take a little look-see. We can play around with this together. I mean, I'll go right here. Oh, dear. Oh, gosh. There we go. See? Bad things happen. WDD Live. Changelog. I mean, don't go there yet, guys. It's not ready yet. All right, let's go here. So see this? These are queried in a query loop. And you click this. And that is a frames modal right there. And it's going to have unique content for every single item. See that? So it is working for what you want, right? It is working for what you want. So let's just go play with it. First of all, we're going to go to automatic CSS. We're going to go to frames. We're going to go see if modal is turned on. It is. What version of frames do we have here? Frames 1.4 alpha 2. Okay, let's, I just want to make sure. The modal's been around for a while, but I don't know what alpha 2 versus I know there's an alpha 3, so I don't want a half-assed version of the alpha. That's definitely not the way to go. So let me jump. I'm doing this on my other screen. So just hang tight, plugin development, release files. Here we go, download. Okay, upload, choose, let's just do it here. Downloads, drag it, bam, install. All right. I do say WDD, we'll do mini tutorials here. We'll see how this works. Okay, did it update 1.4 alpha 3? Okay, good. Let's go to, what are we going to need for this, my friend? Marcel, what are we going to need? We're going to need team members. That's what we're going to need. Okay. Oh, this is a field group. Sorry, I need post types. Add new post type. Team members. Team member. Team members. I'll just do team. And everything else should be fine. Okay. So there's team members. Now, what do we need? We need 2 team members. Okay. Sally. And let's give Sally a photo. There's Sally. Look at her. A badass team member right there. Publish, publish. And then we need Jake. Jake. Here's Jake. Okay. There's our team members. Publish, publish. Now, literally walking through this, if you're a beginner, like, you know, I would highly recommend you do this. Everybody tries to do like every CPT feature, add every custom field imaginable. And they haven't even gone to the, like, you know how I do border checks, like border 5 pixel solid red when you're doing like pseudo elements and things like that. Just do some checks like, hey, you know, what is the first step? Can we just query something onto the page? Like, is that even a thing? Is that working? It really helps to go step by step by step when you do this. Now, you know, do I want to build this thing from scratch? I mean, not really, not really. So I can go into profile. Let's look for some profile stuff. You know, what kind of profile grid do we kind of want here? So let's go profile section Foxtrot and see what we got going on. I didn't import the images, so all the images are going to be blank. We don't even need all these cards. Let's just get rid of all these cards. We just need the one. We just need the one. All right, so immediately I'm going to take profile card Foxtrot here, and I'm just going to say, hey, you be a query loop, okay? What are we going to query? We're going to query our post type, post pages, services, any. We probably need to refresh the builder. It probably doesn't have that CPT in there yet. Okay, so let's grab this, go back to our query loop, post type, team members. There we go. And then I am going to go to the avatar. We're going to get rid of the image for the avatar. And we're going to say, hey, can we query the featured image in there, please? Oh my God, there's Sally. And I don't even know what the other did. Jake, was that his name? All right, let's just come in here and let's go. What is your name? First, oh, it's post title. That's your name. Your name is post title. Okay, and then, oh, look at this. There's a little position badge here, right? Well, how are we going to fill that out? Well, no problem. We're going to hop back over here, and we are going to go to ACF, and we're going to go to field groups, and we are going to go to team members. We're going to assign this bad boy to the team members right down here, and then we're going to say position. Team member position. Okay, field label, field name, default value not needed. Save. Let's go over to team members and let's see if Jake can have a position. Hey, look at this. What's Jake's position? Fighter. Okay. All right. Update. We'll go back and we'll go to Sally. What's Sally's position? Sally's going to be front desk. All right. And if you complain about pricing, Sally gonna fuck you up. Okay. Let's go refresh here so we can see what we're looking at. Refresh our builder. And I'm just going to take this little badge right here. And we're going to go to position. I'm just going to search for position here. There it is. Team member position. Sally. Refresh. Front desk. Now, look, I mean, how long, right? We got little animation here on the click. We got this vertically done next to the cards. I mean, how long would it have taken us to get to this point, right? But frames just got us there. So now what Marcel says, and sorry, Marcel, I have OCD. So we're going to have to do a third team member here. Not that I can't make that a 2-column grid, but we need more people on our team. So let's go with, we got Sally, we got Jake, we got Jennifer. Let's go with Jennifer. Jennifer is, she's a jiu-jitsu instructor. All right. And then Jennifer, we're just going to show Jennifer choking the shit out of somebody right here. Here's Jennifer. All right, save. Okay, refresh. Notice I chose a wide image for Jennifer, but it's still the same aspect ratio as all the others. It's just things already done for you, right? It's not like you just choose, because Bev. Bev's going to choose some crazy aspect ratio image to throw in there. And when you need a wide image, Bev going to give you a tall image. When you need a tall image, Bev going to give you a wide image. But this is an unbreakable situation, right? We've already thought of that. Like, hey, let's not break the grid when people put in the wrong aspect ratio. It's already done for you. Okay, so here's our team members. I mean, look how fast this is, right? But what Marcel says is, no. I need more. I need a modal that opens when you click on the team member, and it's going to have additional information inside. Okay. So what we're going to do is inside of the query loop right here, we're going to put in a frames modal. Perfect. Here is our modal right here. And you can see we are in the builder. We're getting some Z index issues. Let me refresh here. See, I wonder what these cards are doing. Now you're going to have to inspect. Now it's like, why do these cards need Z index? They do have a grid isolation of isolate on them. There is definitely some Z index going on. Let's grab this image. I like to inspect this on the front end. Z index. Well, it's a -1. That shouldn't hurt anything. All right. Anything on this figure? No, that's a flex of 1. Image. Nothing here for Z index. All right, now what I want to do is I want to put something in this modal and fire it off. And let's see if we can, let's put a block in, let's just put a heading inside of here. We just got to put something. Okay. Modal. And then we need a trigger for our modal. I also want to get this close icon to be on the inside. Yes. Okay. We'll deal with that in a second. All right. I just need to fire this modal. So we're going to go to settings. FR trigger is our trigger keyword. So we are going to go. We also need to see if this is using clickable parent. It is clickable parent. Okay. So FR trigger, I believe. Okay. Save. Go to the front end. Okay. And we're having the same Z index. Okay, so let's check this out. This is a alpha 3, by the way. So probably should have used the stable version. But this is a fixable situation. We just need to see how we're going to go about inspecting this. I need it to have an overlap, but I need it to be able to see more of our stuff here. Okay, with L, I just want to play with this. Z index of 99. These modals are... There's a lot of shit going on with these modals. That's like the background for the modal. Here's the overlay for the modal body wrapper. I wonder what the Z index is doing here. It's because they, I'm trying to think of what would cause this. And notice that it's, what I love about this is that it's not doing it on the first one. Because you would think if it was a problem with Z index on the images, right, it would do it to all the images. This is just it was one of those like very interesting WTFs. How is it on top of the first image and under the rest of the cards? It's also above this text, but under this text. This is interesting. Width, color. Okay. Well, how about this? How about we're going to mark that down. Let's get rid of this modal. Let's get rid of profile card Foxtrot. Let's go grab another. Let's go profile and let's grab. Now I want to see if it happens to any others. All right, let's go profile section Bravo. Get rid of this whole section. Nope, don't hit that. All right, profile section Bravo. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now let's quickly come in here. Profile card, get rid of those two cards. Get this to query loop. Post. Team members. Okay. Go into body, go to our name. Delete. Post title. Title. Delete. Search. Title. What was it called? Team member or something. Position. Okay. All right. Perfect. Image, avatar, remove, featured, insert, save. Okay. Refresh. There we go. Now I want to see if it has the same issue. So we're going to go here, add our modal, no issue. So it's just that one frame. And that's such a weird, like over one, under the others, weaving in and out. Okay, Sorry, Marcel, because I want to still answer your question, but we got to get to a non-modal issue. Okay, so here's a modal that's going to work for us. So we have profile card Bravo. We need this modal to be inside of, we're going to need it to be inside of the query loop. So let me pull this in here. And it still doesn't cause the problem. So it wasn't a problem with putting the modal inside the query loop either. Okay, I'm just going through some diagnostics in my head. All right, so what we want is to put the trigger on. So we're going to go to the trigger is the name. That is, and this one's not using clickable parent, but we can make it use clickable parent. So we'll just do clickable parent. And then we're going to use FR trigger, which we want to actually change that in a minute, but I want to get this to just work. Okay. And then what are we going to put in here? So we're going to put the heading. Actually, you know what we can do? Inside the modal, we can just drop in a profile. We probably have author profile card alpha. No, profile modal alpha. Let's insert that. And this is not a modal in itself. I just want to double check that. This just drag this into the modal. And that should fill our modal. Like, oh, we just now got a person modal out of thin air. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our body container. We're going to clear out all the padding. And that should make that extend to the edges of our modal. And I do want to change the background. Let's make this a dark modal, maybe. No, let's make it white. I don't want it to be light gray. Let's make it white. Okay. So ideally what will happen is this will all be unique content, right? But the first thing we need to do is just say, hey, is it like actually firing? And what we need is, let's turn off the modal in the builder. Okay, hide modal in builder. And let's go see if we can get a link in here. We don't even have a link in our header yet, or in our card. Okay, click on this. All right, custom tag, strong, HTML tag, custom. Oh, okay, that doesn't need to be there. Let's go with link to external URL. You don't actually want to use a link for this. You want to use a button, but again, it's a step-by-step getting to what we want. So if that's the URL and we have clickable parent, what we should have is a full clickable card. Let me go to profile modal alpha. We're going to go to position relative on this just to make sure we don't run into any issues that way. Okay, now we have a clickable card. Now we have a modal that fires. Now all the question is this going to be unique content? And it should be the same exact step of just swap out. We're going to activate our modal again in our builder and swap out this content. So person's name is not person's name, it's post title. And then their position is not position, it's their actual position from a custom field. Now, we don't have a whole bio in here for them, but what we can do is insert dynamic content, post content right here. Okay. And then what we could do is we can go over to ChatGPT and we could say, write me a 2-paragraph bio for Jake, who works at a martial arts gym as a trainer. Okay, bam. All right, and here's going to be Jake's bio right here. I just need one of these just so we can verify that it is actually working. Can you write a little faster? We're on the clock here. We're on the clock. Let's go. All right, here we go. Let's steal that. I said 2 paragraphs. It gave me 1 paragraph, but whatever. All right, so let's open Jake. Here's Jake's bio right here. We'll just do this. Update. The other thing that we're going to want to ask ourselves, here, let's just save and refresh. Okay. There's Sally. Is Sally's thing going everywhere? Let's not do this with clickable parent for right now. We got enough shit going on. All right, let's hide modal in builder. Let's take off clickable parent. FR trigger, clickable parent, take that away. FR trigger, okay. And then the URL is there, is good. Okay. Okay, there's Jennifer. There's Jake. There's Sally. Okay. The image, we forgot the image in our modal. So I'm going to go into the modal, activate in builder, little image sitting here. That needs to be our featured image. Okay, so let's go avatar, delete, and pull in our featured image for that. Perfect. Okay. Refresh on the front end. Jake. So there's Jake's bio. There's Jake's name. There's his position. There's Jake's photo. These links down here, social links, the way you would handle that, very easy. Come over here to ACF, back to our field groups, back to our team members, and you're literally going to go, let's go add field. Let me just make it a text field is fine. Facebook URL. Just a little of that action. Add field. I don't even remember what they were. Twitter. All right, so we're going to get rid of one. So we'll do Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. All right, so this is going to be Instagram URL. And then this one, I'm going to do YouTube URL. Okay. And then we save. And then if we go to Jake, so let's go over to team members, go to Jake, edit. Now I just got these URLs I can pop in here. Now, maybe Jake we can see if we can add even some, conditional logic in here, right? So we'll just do google.com for this. I don't care. Let's do instagram.com for this, whatever. It doesn't matter. Save. But notice that Jake does not have a YouTube. Mr. Jake is not on the YouTubes. All right. So what we're going to do, what we need to do is add these in and then conditional logic for TikTok we're just going to delete TikTok, conditional logic for YouTube. All right. So I'm going to delete TikTok here. So we're going to open up this card, footer, social icons. Here they all are for you right here. By the way, they already have hidden accessibility text. Okay. So if you look here, it says follow me on Instagram. And that only gets announced to screen readers. See, everything has a little hidden goodie inside of it. All right. So we're going to delete TikTok, and then Facebook, we're going to open up and we go to just the whole Facebook wrapper. Here's the URL. And we're going to say dynamic data. Actually, I need to refresh the builder because it doesn't have those fields in there yet. Okay, so grab Facebook and external URL, Facebook URL, bam, right from ACF. Then I go over to Instagram. Same thing, delete the URL, pull this in. Instagram, pulls it dynamically from there. Then the YouTube, come over here, dynamically pull this. Even though Jake doesn't have one, the others might. So we got to pull in the YouTube URL. We're going to hit save on that. Okay, so now let's refresh on the front end and just see if we got them working. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. Now, Jake, remember Jake doesn't have one, right? This one goes to Instagram. That's correct. I can see down in the bottom left. This one goes to Google. That's correct. Okay, so now we come in on the YouTubes, and we want to do this for all three, because remember, this modal applies to all of our little team members here. So we want to go up to conditions, add condition. This is going to be dynamic data. And then what are we going to do this based on? Well, we're going to do this one based on the YouTube URL. And we're going to show this if it's not blank. So if the URL is not blank, we are going to show this icon right here. I'm going to go to Instagram. I'm going to say add. I'm going to say dynamic data. And I'm going to say Instagram is not blank. Okay. Then I'm going to go to Facebook. I'm going to say add. And I'm going to say dynamic data. And then I'm going to say Facebook URL is not blank. Save. Refresh. Jake. Look, he's only got 2 icons. Now, if Jennifer, what is Jennifer? Oh, Jennifer's got no icons. Jennifer also doesn't have a bio. But let's go to Jennifer now. So let's say that Jennifer has, let's say Jennifer has a Facebook. So we're just going to put a # in and a YouTube. So she doesn't have an Instagram. So now we're going to update. We're going to go to the front end. Okay, let's check Jennifer. Hey, she got a Facebook and a YouTube, but no Instagram. Okay. And then we just put in her bio there. But now you can see everybody has their own little modal. Everybody's got their own little unique information in their modal. All good. Does this answer your question, Marcel? Hopefully it does. Put a hover on it so you know the peeps are clickable. Yes. Okay. Well, now let's see if we can, let's hide our modal. We can just keep playing. You just keep going down the line. There's always more things you can do, right? So let's hide the modal in the builder. Let's go to the body. No, it's not in the footer, header, info, name. Okay. So name. What did we put the FR trigger on? Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong thing. I need to be in body. Here it was. FR trigger. Okay. So now we really want to think about this. This actually makes things a little bit more interesting. We actually want this to be a button. It's been a while since I've done this. Custom button. We want that to be a button. And we want to extend. I'm wondering if clickable parent extends button areas the way that it does link areas. Let's check this out in the DOM. Sally after, what is, oh, it did not inspect what I asked it to inspect. Let's just look at this for a minute. Why is that an A when I asked it to be a button? Oh, is it because this URL overrides everything? Okay. I don't want to, why does it say no? All right, let's remove that. Why is it not letting me? Bricks. Hello, Bricks. Why do I have a no there? Okay, just remove it all together. Now let's go custom button. Now let's look at the DOM. Okay, now do we have... This is very interesting. I inspect this, and it's trying to inspect this third one over here. All right, let's open this up. It's still an A. What is it doing? Save, refresh, inspect. You guys see this? Custom button. Give me a button. That's what I'm asking Bricks for. I'm asking Bricks for a button. Let's take off clickable parent now and see. We need to inspect this. We need to figure out. I feel like we have a button now. Now we have a button. When I put clickable parent on, does it can't possibly, how would that work? How would it change it from a button to something else? Save. Refresh. It doesn't. Okay. Just Bricks freaking out on us again. All right, so we have a button here. See, this is correct. What you don't want a link to fire a modal, because a link is a navigational element. A button is an on-page event thing, right? So if you're firing an on-page event, you want a button to do that. If you want to navigate to somewhere, then you want a link to do that. So technically, we need a button here. And now we need to hopefully extend the clickable area of the button, but clickable parent does not do this by default. So in my notes, I do this from time to time. We're going to bring out notes, and we're going to write clickable parent for a CSS with buttons. Button, I'll put button elements. Okay. This is what happens. So you use things, you do real world work, and you're like, oh, it doesn't do the thing that I want it to do. Okay, well now it is. Next time it will. So now we need to make clickable parent extend to the to here, which I believe is possible. It's just this is designed to work with links instead of buttons. Okay. But Marcel, I hopefully did do this. So the hover, if you want the whole card to hover, we got to get the button to this. We're already way over time. This will be in the next feature of ACSS though. Next feature release. We'll have buttons working with clickable parents. That will be good. Why are you not using ACSS for a button instead of Bricks? Why are you not using ACSS for a button instead of Bricks? Why are you not? I don't know what this means. Why are you not using ACSS for a button? What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Can you reword that a different way? It wasn't allowing you to take the link off because you were on the class. No, because classes don't affect HTML. So that shouldn't matter. I'm out for today. Great one again. Thanks so much, Kevin. No problem. Shouldn't you put your show hide condition in ACF to keep the family of attributes together? Family of attributes together. I don't know. I don't know what you mean. What I did is I want all three social fields to be available for people, and then whichever ones they have profiles for, they'll put their links in, and whichever ones they don't put a link in, it's just automatically not going to show that. That's how I set that up. Does it matter at what position inside the loop the modal is positioned? It just has to be inside of the loop. It shouldn't matter if it's in the beginning or the end. We can just experiment. So if I put this modal at the top of the I love this. Every builder, it's like dragging is the most fun game. Okay. And then let's just check. There's Jennifer. There's Jake. There's Sally. So I refresh like 5 times. Still works. So it appears that no, it does not matter where inside of the element the modal goes. What I do know is the modal cannot be the loop. Maybe if you did it that way, I don't know how you would do it that way. Yeah, I don't know. There might be a situation where that is happening, where you're trying to modalize the loop. Don't do that if you're doing that. The modal just needs to be inside of the loop, and then it should just be fine. It's not even showing up inside my builder, only if I drag it outside of the section. So maybe it's a z-index issue. That we will definitely take a look at. Like, just send us a URL or your credentials. We'll log in and take a look at it. I mean, I'll actually just get it working for you if you want, because that's the kind of support that we provide. Just hello@automaticCSS.com, or actually in this instance, it will be hello@frames. Not com. Yeah, hello@frames.io. We'll jump in. If you give us credentials, we'll log in and just make it work for you. Are you using ACF now instead of Metabox? I got to go, by the way. It is time. It's been too long. But yes, yeah. I switched back. Especially now that ACF is adding bidirectional relationships. And they're adding one other thing. And I was like, those 2 things that was the last. That was all we needed. So yes. I am. All right, guys. That's it for today. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. I got a couple things I need to go investigate, and one new feature that I have to build, a feature extension, we'll call it, for automatic CSS. It's been fun. I do love you guys. Throw up some likes. Yes. Thanks, Tyree. I appreciate it. I'm out. Peace.